All right. Do I have a motion to return to open session? Ms. Franklin and Ms. Bond, any discussion? Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Franklin? Yes. Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to certify closed session that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Roundtree and Ms. Franklin, any discussion? Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to expel student A?
Second.
Ms. Franklin and Ms. Purcell, any discussion? Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to expel student B?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Roundtree and Ms. Parton, any discussion? Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
No.
Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed.
Motion carries. All right, next up, our student representative tonight is Marina Lee from Blacksburg High School. Mallory Akers from Auburn High School cannot be here tonight. Marina, will you please read our mission and belief statements?
MCPS is an innovative educational community. We value diversity and we are committed to equity and inclusion. MCPS empowers learners to realize success in an ever-changing global society through collaboration with communities, families, staff, and students. MCPS provides a safe, engaging learning environment and intentional exposure to positive social, emotional, and academic experiences. And then for the beliefs, all students can learn in order to pursue their dreams. Schools are safe places of joy, wonder, and creativity. Every person deserves to be loved, valued, and respected. Kindness is an essential skill of a responsible, productive community member. The diversity of our community is one of our greatest strengths. All people deserve equitable access to opportunities and resources. Every child deserves an advocate. Honoring the voices of students and other stakeholders strengthens the school community. Open communication and feedback are vital to our growth. Learning and teaching are collective efforts that begin at birth and involve the entire community. Relationship building and high expectations are foundational to student success.
Great, thank you so much. Our next agenda item is public address. We welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in this community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address. We have the option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Stanley will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. The clock continues through applause and disruptions. The more disruptions there are, the fewer speakers who get to address the board. I'll call each speaker up by name in the order that they signed up. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The board does not respond to speakers during a public address. The screens will show when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when their time is up. Please state your name and the area of the county you live in. The first speaker tonight is Alicia Vaught, followed by Kimberly Williamson.
Good evening, board members. My name is Alicia Vaught from Christiansburg. MCPS risked $5 million in federal funds by rebranding DEI as Office of Education Access and Opportunity to evade an executive order while simultaneously seeking a tax increase. a contradictory move that models deceit over integrity for students. That's like burning your paycheck while asking for a raise. Despite spending $500,000 annually on DEI, math scores remain at 57% and reading at 70%, with 43% of students failing math and studies like a 2023 Stanford analysis show that DEI yields zero academic gains and may actually harm minority students' self-efficacy. Instead of funding a failed and divisive ideology, why not hire tutors with that money and address the learning loss that our kids have suffered? While institutions like Virginia Tech and Florida Tech have eliminated DEI to avoid funding risk, MCPS persists by putting optics over outcomes, ignoring flatline scores and national trends of waste leading to shortfalls as seen in Fairfax County's $300 million deficit. Eliminating DEI could save $5 million, redirecting $500,000 to hire 50 tutors to boost scores 5 to 10% per McKinsey analysis, while local action through groups like the Second Monday Constitution Group and reporting illegal DEI to ndei.ed.gov can ensure transparency and prioritize proven academics over failed ideology for equitable student access. Our kids deserve to be taught the truth about who they are and the power that they have inside of them to do, be, or have anything that they want in this world. Teaching them that they are either victims or victimizers, that they are oppressed or the oppressor, limits their potential. It doesn't teach them that they can do anything that they want. As long as they conceive it and believe it, they will achieve it. All kids are created equal in the image of God with all the power that they need inside of them. Don't believe the lie that is DEI. Instead, report it to ndei.ed.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vaught. Next up is Kimberly Williamson, followed by Deborah Dickerson.
Kimberly Williamson, Christiansburg. Recent stats show that Gen Z is the most conservative generation in 50 or 60 years, and that there is a significant rise in young people reading the Bible. This gives me hope. The young generations are not buying the philosophies sold through public education. They are seeing through this forced conformity of oppressor thought wrapped up in the shiny packaging known as DEI. Young people are seeing that all that glitters really is not gold. DEI's underlying thought is definitively founded in the demented imaginings of one Karl Marx. Karl Marx was a despicable person who treated his family worse than dirt, while he spent years determining how to subjugate all of humanity to big G government, stripping away all independent thinking and freedom while deceiving the sheeple into walking right into their own slavery. Marxists do this by stirring up the hot buttons of each specific society, reopening old wounds, not allowing them to be healed, and the people reconciled to one another. For Americans, that hot button is race. The key is to cause division that layers offense upon offense and ultimately demands a heavy-handed government solution to keep everyone in check. To keep the divisive chaos going, Marx realized that America, the world leader of a free-thinking and prosperous people, had to be torn down. This is a stated goal of Marx and his followers. In fact, about 100 years ago, Marxists literally created a long-term 45-point plan to destroy America. That plan was later read into the Congressional Register for the sake of history. Have we heeded the warning? No. Every single one of those 45 goals has now been implemented. Let's quickly digest just one of them. I think you will find it familiar. Marxist goal number 17, take control of the schools. Use them to transmit socialism and Marxist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Insert the party line into textbooks. DEI, anyone? Racially segregated videos for SEL sessions? Racial balancing in disciplinary procedures? the derogatory label of white privilege that seeks to arbitrarily define and then artificially lower the place of a stereotyped group of people, and then gives accolades to those who accept this. This is no less offensive than a Black person proudly claiming they now understand that their place in society is as the N-word. We are all human beings created by God to do great things. We are overcomers, not victims or oppressors. Teach these
Thank you, Ms.
things,
Williamson. Your
not
time's
DEI.
up. Thank you. Next up is Deborah Dickerson. And there's also a Deb Dickerson. Is that also you, or is that someone?
That's also me. Did I get two?
Yeah, just once. And so then after that is a Steele Putney.
Well, hello, I'm Deborah Dickerson. I'm from Blacksburg, and I'm here tonight to talk about the school renovation projects that were discussed last meeting. So I watched the recording of the meeting on April 1st, and there was a presentation of some preliminary designs for the various elementary schools. One of those designs involved combining Harding Avenue Elementary and Gilbert Lincas Elementary, getting rid of Harding Avenue and building a new and large building on the site of Gilbert Lincas Elementary. I have a son at Gilbert Lincas Elementary, and I am a part of that community, a very active part of that community. So I have concerns, and I was wanting to raise those concerns with the board so that you might consider some additional factors when you're weighing your options. The first is that there is currently considerable single-family home growth happening in the Gilbert Lincas School District. I checked with the town today. There is the Northside Park community, which has 55 single-family home lots. There's the Primrose Park community, which has 60 single-family home lots. And there's the Whipple Townhomes community, which has 34 single-family townhomes. All of those are in the Gilbert Lincas School District. You probably know that Virginia Tech has plans to grow its student population. And when it does this, it will also grow its faculty and staff populations. And this is going to result in a growth of the town of Blacksburg. I think it would be short-sighted to dispose of the Harding Avenue property at this point in time, because we should preserve the spare capacity for future growth and near future growth. I also wanted to point out, as a resident of that area of Gilbert Lincas, that the Toms Creek Road corridor is currently a highly hazardous route. The town has approved several high-density student housing projects that are on that route. In the last few years, those were constructed and populated. So any given day, and I make this trip several times a day up and down Toms Creek Road past Gilbert Lincas Elementary, any given day, the road is thronged with various micro-mobility apparatus, people riding e-scooters, e-skateboards, unicycles, bicycles. There are pedestrians on both sides of the road. And this road is also shared by cars, trucks, school buses, Blacksburg Transit, even 18-wheelers and dump trucks. It is a hazardous road. There are frequent accidents. There was a recent fatality. There have been several fatalities of people on micromobility or pedestrians. If we add the addition
Thank you, Ms. Dickerson. Your time is up. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Next up is Mrs. Steele Putney, followed by Jenny Williams.
My name is Estelle Putney. I live in the Merrimack section of Blacksburg. I'm come to you with congratulations. I understand that in the fall, you passed a policy dealing with hate speech. And I was excited to learn about that because there's a lot of it going around. As far as I understand it, I'm an academic psychologist, that each of those nasty hate remarks is like a little knife that leaves a scar in the children. So I'm very excited that you've taken that difficult issue head on, but I haven't heard anything about how it's being implemented. And I look forward to details about that as soon as they're available. I can't imagine I'm the only one that's concerned about that and how that's protective of children and teachers. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Putney. Next up is Jenny Williams, followed by Dara Wald.
Hi, I'm Ginny Williams. I am here to briefly give my opinions and thoughts on the Harding Avenue closing, that combination of the schools that was discussed at the last board meeting. I would first and foremost like to say I'm here with a number of friends. Some of us are going to come up to speak and some of us aren't, and they're here to just show their support for this effort. But most of us who are here today don't even represent parents who have children in Harding specifically anymore. But we care so much about the school and what it represents to our community that we're here, even though we have no more skin in the game per se. The community school model that I think is one of the strengths of Blacksburg, the town we moved from before moving to Blacksburg, was a different model where all the schools were combined. And there's pros and cons to both, but there's something very beautiful about the community school model that we have here in Blacksburg that offers a lot of community benefits that really builds pockets of community. And I think when you are considering combining and closing the schools, we need to look at the intrinsic value that provides our community. I get that you are the board and you have to take into account the bottom line and the market price and the finances, but there's other things. You have to figure out where you're going to scope what the value of that is and make it clear to us as a community that it's worth combining and closing those schools. And I know this will be a long process if you decide to go forward, and know that the community, this school is very important to the community and it adds a lot of value. And we built community around this school. And I hope that you will be thoughtful about the implications that this would have and really consider how this affects the community, how it affects the students, how it affects their long-term learning, and consider all of that before you make this decision just on the market value of what the Harding Avenue property will give you in the short term, and look at long-term goals as well. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next up is Dara Wald, followed by Trip Shealy.
Hello, thanks for the time. My name is Dara. I'm a parent of a child in the Harding Avenue School District. We are new to Blacksburg, and one of the things that excited us about moving to Blacksburg were the schools. I had heard about that during my interview. I had heard about that when we came to visit. I got to tour. We actually rented a house really close to Harding so that we could walk our kid to school, which was a real joy, and continues to be one today. I noticed that you started the meeting with beliefs. And I really love that. I actually study beliefs, and I loved the fact that you talked about honoring stakeholders' voices. And I also love that you talked about open communication. And personally, as a parent who has a kid in the school and is very invested in the school, I was really surprised to hear about the previous meeting in April and the decision or the conversation about combining the two schools, Gilbert Lingus and Harding Avenue. And so I'd encourage you to do more formal communication with parents to let us know that this is happening if you do move forward and how you're going to move forward. And in particular, thinking about what are some of the unintended consequences and costs of this change. So for example, I've been in places where schools have been consolidated. And I will tell you as a parent, my kid had to wake up at 6:08 every single morning to get on a bus to a school that was a 15-minute bike ride away. But because of the way that the drive line was and because of crossing a scary highway, it took my child 45 minutes to 50 minutes to get to school every single direction. And that meant that he was more tired. That led to more disciplinary actions in the school. That led to lower test scores. That led to disruptions in the school, which meant that the school had to hire additional staff to deal with behavioral issues. It had to deal with additional staff for before school and after school. It had to hire more bus drivers. It had to hire monitors on those buses, because of those behavioral issues. And so I'd really love to know more about sort of how you're thinking about those unintended consequences that come from a decision like this. I'd also like you to think about the lack of exercise opportunities that having that community school provides for our kids, especially given that kids at Harding Elementary School, they get 20 minutes or so of exercise in 2 different bursts, right? That's not a huge amount during the day. And so that walking and that biking and that movement to school actually really provides benefits, particularly for kids who have challenges staying focused all day long. And lastly, I'd love to know, what is the data besides the economic cost that we're thinking about, that you are thinking about when you're making this decision, and how it would be better for our kids in our community. So I'd appreciate that opportunity for additional communication. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wald. Reminder that we don't need applause during each speaker. That just takes longer. It's going to extend the meeting, okay? So next up is Trip Shealy, followed by Sarah Madsen. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Trip Shealy. I've got a first grader at Harding Elementary and a soon-to-be kindergartner, and then hopefully another 5 years from now who will be here soon. And so we live in the neighborhood. We bought our house because it was in proximity walking distance to Harding. I'm here to express my support for hopefully considering renovating the space instead of consolidating it. I think there's a lot of added benefits for the neighborhood. In addition to, like others have said, the community benefits, property value benefits, the benefits to our kids. Rain or shine, we walk or bike to school every day. For me to go on Patrick Henry to Tom's Creek with a 7-year-old is not possible. And right now, we come down a bike path that goes around the park and up to the school, and he can do it pretty much by himself at 7 and not have to cross any busy roads, and that would not be possible with the consolidation. And that's the best part of my day, is taking him and picking him up from school and walking, and I'd like to be able to continue to do that with my daughter and son in the future. So losing that ability would be a really big loss, both to me and many of my neighbors. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Shealy. Next up is Sarah Madsen, followed by Dana Flatimer.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sarah Madsen, and I have been a Harding parent for 9 years. As a parent, a substitute teacher, and a library volunteer, I have a lot of memories about why Harding is so special. But tonight I want to tell you why our little neighborhood school is so special to my son. My son is in 5th grade this year. He is shy. He's occasionally hesitant to try new or hard things because of a perceived chance of failure. Before the school year started, my son decided that his goal this year was to ride his bike to school every day. We live 3/4 of a mile away from Harding Avenue Elementary, and his primary route would be going down Harding Road. My son has ridden his bike on days when the weather is perfect. He has ridden in frigid temperatures, and he has ridden in the pouring rain multiple times. And on those days when Harding Road was still icy, especially on the shoulder, my son walked. With about 5 weeks left in this school year, my son is very close to crushing his goal. Riding his bike to school every day might not seem like a big deal, but my son has grown tremendously this year. He has learned how to be a little more self-reliant. He has learned perseverance. He has gained confidence, and he now appreciates a good pair of rain pants. This was made possible because of the location of our little neighborhood school. Harding Avenue is perfect where it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matson. Next up is Dana Vladimir, followed by Sonia Lefersky.
Good evening. My name is Dana Fladhammer, and I live on Dickerson Lane in Blacksburg. During the pandemic, we picked up and moved our family to Blacksburg. And we picked them up and moved our family to Blacksburg for one reason: the schools and the ability to send our daughter to school during a pandemic because she's immunocompromised. See, she came from a school that had 1,400 elementary school students between the two buildings that were connected. And her doctors told us she would not be able to return in person until she and the vast majority of society was fully vaccinated. I looked at a child who was scared she was going to die and said, "We will move you and find a place you can go to school." Harding Avenue Elementary School brought this child in with open arms and said to us as parents, "We can make sure she is as safe as humanly possible." Families like the Madsons welcomed us. Instead of being the new kid who masked, by the way, until the beginning of her 7th grade year, she's in 8th grade now. Instead of being the child that was unusual because she was masked, she was welcomed and loved every day. The teachers, the administrators, every parent there welcomed us with open arms. Our daughter walked to school with Ginny Williams and her family. She had never walked to school before. And when I asked her what that meant to her, she said, "I feel safe walking in downtown Blacksburg because I learned to walk to school." If you think about that, these kids are not just walking to school. They're learning how to navigate their community. And that won't be possible if you accept this proposal. It's easy to think of this as just money and to forget about the people. To forget that my 13-year-old walks down and picks up Tripp's son if they can't be there. That they have conversations about what school means and what it means when we're walking along this pathway, and that you can have a child mentoring another child, walking them home, which they would never be able to do if you combine these schools. I encourage you to not think just about the money, but to think about the relationships. What they build in relationships in these small community schools is invaluable. And I know that because I watched my daughter find a place in this district. And I watched a superintendent make sure it was safe, and I watched a board make sure it was safe. Please don't take that away from our community. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fladhammer. Next up is Sonia Lefersky, followed by Safia Yonker.
Sonia Lofersky, Blacksburg. As the mother of a child who currently attends Harding Avenue Elementary, and as somebody who attended HAE herself, I am deeply concerned about consolidating the schools. My daughter struggled in 1st grade this year. Thanks to her small classroom size and her small school size, her teacher was able to easily recognize her issues and resolve them quickly with specialized reading classes and speech therapy classes. Her principal has met with me several times thanks to our close-knit community, and I'm happy to report that my daughter's grades and work have improved. She would be lost in a bigger school. I'm sure she's not the only one. We walk or bike to school as long as weather permits, which is one of our favorite times of day. There is a large group of walkers and bikers, as you've heard tonight, who meet outside after school where they can play together, allowing them to connect on a deeper level with different grades, which promotes social interactions beyond their immediate age or immediate class and age group. Please do not close our beloved school. Thank you.
We talked about applause. Come on. We're almost there. Next up is Safia Yonker, followed by Bob Beard. Are we good on time? Can I get a time check? Okay.
My name is Sophia Yonker. I also live in the Harding district. I've had my 14-year, he's 16-year-old, and my 16-year-old son was at Harding his whole duration, and my 11-year-old, 12-year-old, not quite yet, is also Harding his whole duration. And it has meant so much to our family, but I'd actually like to ask you guys to think about how much it means to the community of Blacksburg as a whole, the neighborhood school system. I feel like Blacksburg is growing, and I love that. And it is like its character as a like small town where families walk to school it's like a key part of the town as a whole. And there aren't many, like the 3 neighborhood schools that we have now are, I think, a really important part of the color and atmosphere of the town as a whole. And doing away with them doesn't just hurt the parents and students that no longer have that school to go to, but will really affect the community at large. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Ms. Yonker. Next up is Bob Beard, followed by Chris Thomas.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Bob Beard, and I'm from Christiansburg. It's budget season, so there's several questions, but how does MCPS get to keep $5 million in funding? You guys have to remove and remove DEI. Raise standards towards excellence by teaching self-reliance, critical thinking, reading, writing, arithmetic, science, and learn to teach the difference between democracy and a constitutional republic. Quit indoctrinating our kids with the victimization mentality. We have to end DEI. Okay, next question is, if you guys want to keep DI, how do you guys afford it? Can we pay for it? Well, what is DI? What is the DEI ROI? What is DI or equity being evaluated? How's it being evaluated? I really don't know, but I do know it's not based on academic standards. So the question is, how do you guys pay for this? So some ideas are create larger classroom sizes by reducing the number of teachers, sell and close a building, that'll eliminate a bunch of jobs, consolidate roles by reducing administration, cap pay raises, do a fundraiser, and next year increase budgets and have it paid to by tax increases. You have a very willing board of supervisors who will help you guys raise taxes. An idea is on the cap pay raises. Let's make pay raises equitable. Pay raises, MCPS teachers have had pay raises for the last 10 years. These pay raises are done as a percentage of salary, thus disproportionately benefiting the higher paid administration staff. The disparity keeps getting larger and larger each year. The dollar amount can be 4 to 7 times more than what a teacher has earned. Again, is this equitable? Why not have a percentage increase for the cap? Why should a teacher who gets a $1,600 pay raise and some administrator get $9,000 pay raise? This could save $100,000. Teachers still struggle with inflation and taxation, while MCPS administrators get to keep their lifestyles as their pay increase outflank inflation tax increases. So please help the teachers. Last night in a public address, I mentioned white supremacy and white privilege. I learned of this during the March 18th school board meeting, and I've been trying to do some research, and everyone I've spoken to, the teachers, parents, neighbors, friends, still can't believe that MCPS was and is sending faculty to white privilege conferences, and taxpayers are paying for it. They all ask why. I said, I don't know, but I assume it's all about equity. But there must be a failure at the MCPS school system. We want to know more about the MCPS failure. Are government schools racist? Is the admin racist? Are the teachers racist or students racist? What was learned at these conferences to identify systemic racism? What steps are being implemented to eliminate racism in the MPS system? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beard. Okay, board members, Ms. Stanley has indicated the 30 minutes has passed. Does anyone wish to make a motion to extend public address by an additional 30 minutes?
So moved.
So moved.
Dr. Guitry and Ms. Franklin, Any discussion? Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Our next speaker tonight is Chris Thomas.
Members of the board, wow, the Everything I Don't Like is Satanic Marxism Club had quite the showing earlier tonight, right? This after a rousing speech at yesterday's Board of Supervisors meeting in which one of its charter members provided a PowerPoint presentation to enumerate all the things he doesn't understand. I'd like to take you through some of the high points so you have a sense of how this school system is being represented before the BOS. First off, as you can probably tell from tonight's remarks, my friends on the right think the school district must either rip out every vestige of whatever DEI is by the roots or lose $5 million in federal funding from the Department of Education. It remains unclear if the Department of Education is even going to be a thing by this time next week or what exactly getting rid of DEI means, but the totally not racists are quite convinced that action must be taken now for reasons. The speaker was also worried there might be 4 communities in MCPS, and he's not sure what they are. Maybe they're racial, maybe they're behavioral, maybe they're Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Auburn, and Eastmont. We may never know. The speaker is outraged that MCPS staff may have attended a white supremacy conference. Spoiler alert, the MCPS staff did not attend a white supremacy conference. To my knowledge, MCPS has never sent a delegation to CPAC, but MCPS did send some staff to the white privilege conference hosted by the Privilege Institute, at which staff members are asked to think about how their upbringing might differ from that of a Black, Hispanic, or an Asian student. That would be difficult to confuse for, say, a Klan rally. Finally, some speakers here tonight are concerned about how much MCPS pays the folks who work in the Equity and Diversity Office. Yesterday's remarks asserted that the office payroll allocates more than $300,000 for Ms. Woodsetzer and Ms. Wright. It does not. Neither Ms. Woodsetzer nor Ms. Wright make anywhere close to that much money. Even Superintendent Bragan doesn't make $300,000 per year. Our DEI critics appear to confuse the office budget and the salaries of the individuals in that office, and these are not the same thing. Even if they were, they have omitted an entire employee from their, well, calculation. Seems like giving more credit than is due. That said, I think last night's Board of Supervisors speech and its contradictions with the figures cited tonight do raise, albeit unintentionally, a great point, and in that my friends on the right find themselves in agreement with Ms. Franklin. The MCPS budget is open without being transparent. It has already been pointed out to this board that while taxpayers can use board docs to find out what the school system spent on paper towels and permission slips for our buses, we can't determine what the school system spends on athletics or professional development in the Eastmont Strand, or indeed on diversity and inclusion. And so to that extent, I understand the speaker's frustration. We should not have to embarrass ourselves in front of the Board of Supervisors guessing at how our tax dollars are being allocated by this board. As a citizen, and as citizens, a full accounting of what our schools spend on what and to what purpose they spend it is a reasonable ask. So I join my friends on the right in that request. Though I do find it interesting that after railing against DEI, Mr. Beard here is concerned about the schools being racist and about equity in pay raises. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And with that, public address is closed. All right. Next up are consent items. If no one wishes to move an item out of consent, we will consider these items approved. Okay, great. Next up are the financial reports. Do I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the financial summary report for March 2025?
Second.
Ms. Franklin and Dr. Roundtree, any discussion?
I have a couple of questions. Are we in a budget situation where there's such a significant predicted shortfall that we need to close a school?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are we in a budget situation, again, where we would need to have a targeted reduction in force?
Not that I'm aware of.
And are we in a budget situation where we need to eliminate programs?
Current programs, no.
Thank you.
Yep. Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell,
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of bills as presented?
Second.
Ms. Franklin and Dr. Roundtree. Any discussion? Ms. Franklin, please call the roll. Wait, what did I say?
Ms. Franklin.
I was trying so hard to.
What?
I was trying so hard to not say Ms. Osborne.
Clerk? I'm like, wait a minute.
You know, Ms. Franklin, why don't you just give it a shot?
But he got 2 jobs.
You were
now.
paying attention, though, weren't you? Ms. Stanley, would you please call the roll?
It's following directions. Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Dr. Guidry,
Yes.
Ms. Pardon, Ms. Purcell,
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Next up, we're in our business meeting, and our first item is the report from the superintendent.
Thank you, Chair Hudson. April is School Library Month, a time to recognize the invaluable contributions of our school libraries and the library media specialists in the Montgomery County Public Schools. Our libraries are more than just collections of books. They're dynamic learning environments that foster critical thinking, digital literacy, and a lifelong love of reading. In alignment with our mission to engage, encourage, and empower, our school libraries play a pivotal role in supporting students' academic and personal growth. They provide access to resources and create supportive spaces where every student can thrive. I encourage all members of our community to celebrate and support our school libraries and the dedicated professionals who lead them. Their work is essential to preparing our students to be informed, responsible citizens in an ever-evolving world. Kudos to all that they do. On another note, I want to thank our staff members, our Blacksburg Middle School administrators, local law enforcement, and emergency responders for all their efforts in managing a minor bus accident today that occurred en route to a local field trip. Their expertise and compassion for our students was exemplary and helped successfully mitigate this situation where everyone felt safe, secure, and cared for. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank them. I was fortunate enough to be on site and witness this firsthand. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Reagan. Next up, Katie Seidemann, MCEA President, will present an update from the Montgomery County Education Association.
Good evening, Chair Hudson, Dr. Reagan, members of the board. My name is Katie Seidemann, and I would like to thank you again for allowing me to be here tonight to present to you a report on behalf of the Montgomery County Education Association. First, I would like to share the MCEA priorities for the 25-26 school year MCPS budget. We are in full support of the new positions suggested in the budget, including the newly added special ed staff positions and the 504 coordinator positions. We are also advocating for the 3% raise for all MCPS employees. As previously mentioned, we also fully support the compressed salary scale for employees, which will be beneficial to recruitment and retention in our school system. Additionally, we hope that the Board of Supervisors will help us out with a tax increase designated for the MCPS budget. Secondly, I would like to share with you the results of a short survey that we sent out to our members regarding the school calendar. We asked our members 2 questions. 1, did you prefer having a full week for spring break this year compared to previous schedules? And 2, did you prefer having MCPS spring break aligned with Virginia Tech spring break? The overwhelming majority, 87.5%, were in favor of the week-long spring break, with 7.4% having no preference either way. 36.3% of respondents preferred aligning our spring break with Virginia Tech. 49.2% had no preference either way. I share this information with you because the majority of staff really enjoyed our week-long spring break, and we were looking forward to having it again next year. In the future, I'd like to urge you to listen to the recommendations of the committees created specifically for working out these decisions. The majority of staff were fully in favor of the proposed calendar submitted by the calendar committee. And subsequently, the majority of staff are displeased with the final calendar. The committee worked many hours to develop a practical calendar that was best for students and staff, but their recommendation was ignored. I urge the board to listen to the recommendations of this committee that was created for this specific purpose, rather than debating the merits of 179 days versus 180 days up here during business meetings. If the recommendations are not to be taken into consideration, then why even have the committee members spend their time and energy working on them? Third, I would like to say simply, the MCEA is not in favor of combining Harding Avenue and Gilbert Lincas. I again urge you to listen to the recommendations being brought to you. Next, I would like to take this time to provide you a brief update on our collective bargaining efforts. Administrative collective bargaining agreement is still working its way through the legal language, but it is slowly progressing. It has been a slow-moving process, but we are encouraged by our continued communication and collaboration with Dr. Bragan that we continue to be on the same page. In regards to our classified employee group, we will be starting negotiations for our support staff next week, and we are hopeful that they will be as straightforward and collaborative as our previous negotiations have been. Lastly, I would like to ask the board to take under serious consideration the dismantling of public education that is currently taking place in our state and federal governments. Our public schools are under threat, and therefore, our public education is under threat. There are those who would like to see us fail, so they make top-down edicts about policy, sign orders to freeze funding, shut down departments, criminalize diversity and inclusion, and reevaluate standards to move the goalposts of student achievement, to purposefully show our public school systems in a negative light, so that no matter how hard we work, we can never achieve those targets because the targets keep moving. And then when the school systems fail, they say, see, public schooling does not work. Our members and our staff are incredibly concerned about the current political climate surrounding public education, and I ask our school board to publicly affirm their full defense of and decisive action supporting our public schools. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to address the board at this time, and we look forward to continuing this type of open communication. Thank you, Chair Hudson and fellow board members. What questions can I answer for you?
Thank you, Ms. Heidemann. Board, any questions?
No questions, just a couple statements. Yeah, so I had several people that, previous to the, week-long spring break, spoke out against it, and then afterwards, at the time with family and the break and everything, they came back to us and said, yeah, we really like that, and we really want that back. Thank you for all the updates from the school. As far as defense of public schools, I joined the board to become a defender of public schools, and speaking to Senator Warner earlier today at a public school roundtable, he was very adamant that he was also here to help support and defend our public schools. Our administration is having some draconian measures towards our public schools, and we'll fight back, and we need everyone to speak out and fight back. We did not come here to dismantle schools, and we need to keep these schools in place.
So I absolutely agree with that. Unfortunately, public education becomes a threat to people who want to keep control of whatever they want to keep control of. But it's not to help move our country forward by not educating our children. That is for sure. And that is so sad, because where is this country going to be if we don't educate our children and, quite frankly, support those who help to educate our children? So as far as collective bargaining, I get real anxious when we talk about the legal portion of things that can slow things down so much. Is there anything that needs to be done to help move past that?
I do believe we are, Glenn just told me it's done. So, no, thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Franklin. If you'll allow Glenn, he can speak to it. He is our collective bargaining chair. If not, I am happy to speak to it.
No, if we've gotten past those lawyers, I'm good.
Okay. I will say that it was a lot of legal language, therefores versus ands and, all of that kind of stuff. So the meat and potatoes of the agreements we agreed on, and Dr. Bragan was very persistent in making sure that it kept moving forward. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Board, anyone else? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you so much. All right, next up, Megan Atkinson, our Administrator of CTE and Business Partnerships, will provide an overview of the VDOE updates and upcoming programs and projects related to CTE.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Bragan. Thank you for allowing me a chance to share what we've been up to since about the middle of February and prior to me coming here. I may need some assistance with the clicker, but we'll see if I can get it working. So the first piece of information that I wanted to share was the Virginia Department of Education's updated list of industry certifications. So at the state level, they have been working to identify which industry credentials have value in industry. Currently, the state has over 300 recognized industry credentials, and some of them mean something in the real world, and some of them don't. So they have used data from the new Economic Development Office, Virginia Office of Education Economics, to look at the potential job growth across the Commonwealth. And using that information, jobs that are going to be available to students, they have identified which industry credentials are considered high demand and which are not. So what does that mean for Montgomery County? What you're looking at right now is the list of industry credentials that are offered throughout the school division. And they're divided into 4 categories. I'll start with the bottom left-hand corner. That's the Career and Technical Consortium of States credential, the Workplace Readiness credential. And that's a credential that we use for all students because there's a graduation requirement for industry credentials. Every CTE course teaches those workplace readiness competencies, how to show up to work on time, how to work together and collaborate with a team. And so that credential is something that has value across all of our courses. When you move up to the industry certifications, you'll see the list of credentials that we offer. Currently, every credential that's highlighted in green is considered a high demand industry credential. So we have already tailored most of our credentials within our programs to align with those high demand career options. Moving over to the national occupancy competencies, you'll see that every credential that we offer in that category is in that high demand categorization from the Virginia Office of Education and Economics. And then the bottom right-hand corner are our 2 industry credentials that are overseen by other state organizations. So our cosmetology licensure that our students can earn, we meet the requirements from the Virginia Department of Education, but those students also have to meet all of the requirements from the Virginia Board of Cosmetology. And so those state licenses that they earn when they have graduated from high school, they can take that straight into their career. As well as the Certified Nurse Aide exam, that's overseen by the Virginia Board of Nursing. And so the students in those programs have to meet all of the standards from the Department of Education, but they also are qualifying under the Virginia Board of Nursing. As far as items that are upcoming, I wanted to share some of the things that we've been working on since I got here. The first is the GoTech Lab. GoTech stands for Great Opportunities in Technology and Engineering Careers. It is a program that will go into our middle schools, and we are seeking grant funding to upfit our technology education labs. About $140,000 worth of equipment will be coming into our middle school technology education labs. And tomorrow, I am having the CTE Advisory Committee meeting Hopefully you guys have heard the GoTech bus is coming to the board office tomorrow evening. So I would love to have as many of you that are available come out to see the GoTech bus. It will be here from 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the evening. And you can see what we are working towards bringing to our middle schools. The next program that we are working towards is the Jobs for Virginia Graduates program. That will bring an individual to schools to serve as a job coach and working with students that have barriers to success in education. They will be identified from our school administrators, our school counselors, and our teachers, and they can be enrolled in the Jobs for Virginia Graduates program and have one-on-one support as they move through their high school career, and then also receive support for a full year after they graduate to make sure that they are gainfully employed. We've been working with the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. I have joined their Education and Talent Committee and will continue to work there to connect all of our local businesses to our school division. The Montgomery County Economic Development Commission meets once a month, and we'll be attending those meetings and sharing the work that we're doing in the school divisions and hearing from different local government representatives, economic development professionals, and other leaders throughout the community to make sure that we're all working together. Today, I attended 2 different industry sector leadership summits, one for IT and networking and one for manufacturing that were hosted by Onward NRV. So we got to hear all of the job opportunities that are there directly from industry. And we'll continue working with that partnership to make sure that industry and education are working together. And then later this week, I am going to be meeting with the Fire and Rescue Commission to start a conversation with all of the rescue and fire departments to see if there is community support to bring an EMT program to Montgomery County Public Schools. So those are just kind of the summary of what we've been working on. And then the next, we have our CTE signing dates. So I wanted to make sure that you had those dates so you could put them on your calendar. We would love to see you at any or all of these events if your schedule allows. And then if you are able to move to the next item on the agenda, the Perkins Plan, the first read, I went ahead and just continued my presentation here so that I didn't have to make 2. But I wanted to summarize the Perkins Plan for the upcoming year. We have our performance assessment data that is part of that plan and the financial data that's there. The advisory committee is meeting tomorrow to review the plan and to give their input. And I will make the changes that they recommend and bring that back for vote at a later board meeting. The total budget amount for our Perkins Plan, just like every year, is not released until the summer. So the dollar amount that's there, we are using the dollar amount that was given for this year. So that's how we build our plan. And any changes, either an increase in Perkins funding or a decrease in Perkins funding, will come from the equipment line in the Perkins Plan. And so to summarize, this year we were awarded $178,684.90 to spend on our career and technical education programs. The structure for funding this year, or for the 25-26 school year, is to spend $151,000 in equipment, and then $16,000 for professional development for CTE teachers, administrators, and counselors. That is an increase of about $10,000 from last year's Perkins Plan, just to make sure that our teachers are staying up to date with industry standards. And then we'll continue to fund additional industry credentials through our Perkins Plan, because the industry credentials that have value in industry cost more. So we want to make sure that we're allowing for those credentials that have value. So that's what I have for my presentation. What questions can I answer for the board?
Great, thanks so much for that presentation about the update and also the review of the Perkins grant. Board, any questions about either? Comments?
I don't have any questions, and I know that who initiated getting some information, and I appreciate it because I know you're new to the position and you're still kind of figuring it all out and learning, so please don't think that I'm being like, rah, rah, rah. But I guess what I would like to see, and I would like for our community to hear, is the students that are involved in the career and tech programs, because we constantly talk about how important CTE is, but I really don't think our community sees and understands how many students take part in career and technical education. I don't think we realize what's offered, and that's kind of what I was looking for. I was hoping that our presentation would be on, yes, I mean, we know cosmetology, we know nursing, but, you know, are our students really involved in auto mechanics? Do we have building trades still going on? Because these are the things the community are asking. Is there really a class doing this? What's happening? How many students are involved? What students do we see going into the workforce? What, as far as these goes, career and techs, you know, a lot of people go, oh, well, you know, when's the last time you hired a plumber and do you see how much they pay? That doesn't mean that student's making that kind of money. Usually that's who owns the business, who's doing those type of things. That 20 years experience, very, very different than sometimes different walks of education. That's, I guess, what I wanted to see that I was hoping our community could kind of hear, because we have a lot of students that don't choose a college course that are bright young students that learn a very important education in a different walk of life. And I just think our community needs to understand that. So that's, for me, maybe another time, once you get more settled, I would like for our community to hear that, what we offer, what students are involved in that. The same thing I had, I think, mentioned about skills, because that provides a lot of learning ability for our students involved in the skills organization. I mean, learning how to, you know, present, learning how to do competitions, learning how to think on your feet, learning how to express, because in the business world, that's what I hear. These students aren't ready, and I don't mean knowing what they know or education. I mean being able to answer the phone and talk with people one-on-one and communicate. That's something that we're not seeing. And so I know, you know, back in the dark ages when I was in high school, VICA, which is Skills Now, really provided a lot of those teaching moments. Are we still doing that? And I understand, I know who is our developer for skills for our region, used to teach in career and tech at Blacksburg. So I understand that she's involved in that, but I would like to kind of hear, you know, how many students do we have that are in those, I mean, I guess it's still called a club, but that club that's taken part in going and doing these things, these competitions at state level, at national level. I mean, we had lots of kids that were, I mean, and were state officers, district officers, and it may be a club, but those are skills. Those teach important lifelong skills of how to communicate with people, how to, you know, work with one another. So I'm personally looking for that. I appreciate everything you told us tonight. That's a start. But in sometime in the future when we don't have an agenda that's, you know, till midnight, that's what I'm looking to see. And I think our community needs to hear that, because we don't see always all the great things that our schools provide. You know, when we go to a function and culinary arts provides the food, or, you know, when I go to the play Clue at the high school and culinary arts did all the food, and people don't see that. They don't see the fantastic things that we do in Montgomery County schools and all the different courses that kids are involved in. So that's what I'm looking for.
I will say stay tuned, because we will be sharing some state award winners and
some national qualifiers for our career and technical student organizations. So Skills USA being one of those, because we do have each one of those career and technical student organizations that the state offers. So it just is not tonight that we're celebrating their successes, but that will be coming.
Our childcare program. I mean, that's a phenomenal program that we offer, and lots of families that are able to, play. My child was one of them that went, and I don't know who teaches at the other schools, but Miss Tabarine at Christiansburg, I mean, she's amazing, and just being able to offer that to some of the children that get to see, and students working with them, and it's amazing. And we need more childcare facilities in our areas. That's one of the purposes of some of the comments on time off and different things. The reason I have it is because we just don't have it. So we need to have young ladies and men ready to come through child care facilities to maybe we can get more child care in our communities. So thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go around. Ms. Parton?
So thank you for the presentation and welcome. So I've kind of had the same concerns as Ms. Bond has had as far as the community are actually wanting to show off our CTE to the community. I know we like to brag, and I like to brag about our educational piece, which I do every chance I get, and I'm so proud of all of our students who graduate and go off to college or whatever career that they may have. Couldn't be more proud. But I'm also very proud of just as much of our students who choose to go into a CTE program, because I'll be honest with you, I am hearing concerns. Are there going to be people who can do this in the future? I'm already hearing concerns about doctors not being around. Heard that for a while. I'm already seeing concerns with our teaching program as well, which raises a big concern. But I'm also seeing concerns with just our everyday things that we need to have done, and try to make that as appealing as we possibly can. I do know kids that have gone into it and have gone on, actually two got athletic scholarships to out-of-state schools, and they've come back. One's a linesman now, making phenomenal money, and another one just went into that apprenticeship, and another one who is actually my nephew, who is now working in Texas on an oil rig, making, I can't even say the amount of money he's making, and he just turned 20. So just making sure that they know that that's there in our community. It's a need, not just for our community, but for society. And us to maybe think of better ways we can show that. Like, I don't know, next time you need a haircut, don't go to Old Town Barber, go to CHS Cosmetology and get your hair cut. I don't know, but there's things, not to take away any of Jamie's customers, but just to show that you can go in there and do that. And I've seen some Facebook posts showing, hey, I've got this phenomenal, haircut from the cosmetology department, and we offer things like that. I just don't know if our community knows how much is out there, and we do offer. And then that way they can say, hey, I got this done, So, and I love the signing days, because that's one of my most fun days to go on is when our students are showing what they've learned and where they're going and our progress, and because we've had this phenomenal staff and school behind us to get them where they're at. So those are always fun. So thank you for letting us know that, and thank you for all you're doing to promote this. And I look forward to hearing more from you in the future on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kitchew.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I don't have any questions.
Great. Ms. Purcell.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the presentation. I'm very excited that you're pursuing the EMT course. That's something that I was just talking about with a community member recently. I know that there are some hurdles with regard to equipment and instructors and costs and other things, but the need is so great. I hope it's something we can figure out. I know that there is also a firefighting course that's available to be held through high schools, and I asked about this the last time we had a CTE presentation, and the response was that there didn't seem to be interest, but I wasn't sure if kids knew that it was something they could do. It would be such a wonderful pipeline to our ACE program also, in addition to just needing volunteer firefighters and emergency medical support. I guess my second question would be, what are some ways in which we can support you?
That's a loaded question. So to address the firefighter course, we can survey students and see if there's interest for any course that is on the books for the Virginia Department of Education. I would like to focus on EMT to begin with because of the regulations that are there, and I'd like to do some research. I am not aware of any firefighting programs in suburban and rural areas, but that doesn't mean that they're not out there. So I'll reach out to my colleagues and see if there are any divisions that have similar demographics that have had success with firefighting. The programs that I know of are in urban areas. So that would be the kind of context where we would need to look at the possibility of firefighting coming to Montgomery County Public Schools. And as far as support, I think you guys do it. Asking as a board to have a stronger cheerleader for career and technical education, I don't think it gets any better than that. So I'll continue to bring that information to you guys and to share the things that we are doing.
Great. Dr. Roundtree.
Thank you very much for the presentation and putting together the grant to support our students' education in CTE. No other comments. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Franklin.
Okay, so it concerned me when it's being discussed what certifications are meaningful, which to a student who is putting all they have into a field, it's meaningful. So what is the criteria for that?
So for a certification to be designated as high demand, that's coming directly from the Virginia Office of Education Economics. Now, that doesn't mean that other certifications don't have value, but it gives us a tool to look at what jobs are up and coming, what jobs are going to be available to our students after they graduate. And to put attention, if we're bringing a new credential in or if we are considering a different credential, that is a tool to help us make the best decision for our students. That doesn't mean that it's a play-by-play that we follow. For example, our cybersecurity programs use two different credentials. They use Test Out, which is a credential that I'm learning more about, and they use CompTIA. Those are both approved industry credentials for that course. Where you'll see a difference is CompTIA is aligned closer to industry. So that credential is on the high demand list. If a student has a CompTIA credential, they can walk into an entry-level IT job and everyone in industry knows what that credential is. With Test Out, it's not as commonly known. But again, there's still value. So our teachers are the content experts, and they are the ones who are making the decision. What I'm sharing is the tool that will help us hopefully make smarter and more strategic decisions as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. So I, like Ms. Bond, have been saying we need to highlight to the community exactly what is meant by CET. For at least 2 or 3 years, when the Home Expo was done at the Rec Center, that we had our CET students there. Do we still do that?
So we didn't this year, although I did serve as a booth judge for the Home Expo in partnership with the Home Builders Association. What we are looking at doing with the chamber is setting up an expo for students at the Job Expo in October. So that wouldn't be just limited to home builders and careers in construction. That would be all careers. So we're hoping to demonstrate our students' skills across all of our programs, not just in careers in construction.
Thank you. And it would love to see, I think one of our last presentations was with our pharmaceutical students, which was absolutely wonderful and eye-opening to how energized they were, and some of them even moving on with their careers with that as a base. So I always love to see our students. And the workplace readiness, that should not just be limited to our CET students. All of our students need to have that. And so with the police academy that's at Christiansburg High School, with our firefighters, sometimes we have to create our own programs. So we are pulling our students in to help them understand, yeah, this is something you want to do. So I would love to see, just because there's not something else, we can build it ourselves to bring those young folks into those professions.
I'm hoping at the first responder commission when I meet, I'd like to talk to especially the fire departments about how they could create opportunities for students to understand careers in firefighting. For example, in other divisions, we had talked about having firefighters come into PE classes and doing firefighter fitness. So then it's not just happening in a career and technical education class. You're looking at some interdisciplinary activities that can support career investigation. And then also, you have to pass a fitness test to be a firefighter. So it's kind of a dual purpose there.
Yeah.
So there's creative ways for us to weave career and technical education into all subjects.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, fine.
Thank you. I was going to say too, and I know our educators probably do this already, so not to make light of that, but I think we've always either or, and it doesn't have to be that way. It can be both. I'll use my daughter for an example. I mean, she was like, Mom, I don't love doing hair. I don't want to do it, for a living. So she got her degree. She loves what she's doing. And she helps me on Saturdays because she ended up getting her cosmetology license as well. And I think there's many students that want to go the college route, and she did ACE and then, moved on and transferred to tech. But there's so many opportunities, and learning how to work on your vehicle, learning how to build a house, learning how to do whatever it might be. I'm just using those two, learning how to cook better, take care of it's never going to hurt anyone in life skills. So, I know our educators are passing that along, but sometimes I think we could do a better job as a community, making our students aware that it's okay to have those skills along with a college-bound education. So, anyway.
Thank you.
I'll just quickly lend my voice to that same ask. I think we do a lot of great stuff, and it would be awesome to highlight it. My kids wanted to be a math teacher since middle school, and he's still leaning in that direction. But he took cybersecurity courses. He earned some of those certs that you were just showing earlier, and hasn't yet changed his career path towards that. But he's got those in his pocket, right? And so down the road, that could serve him well. Now he's taken the welding class. And when your kids are young and you bring home like the little fingerprint drawings and stuff and you hang them on your refrigerator, now he's bringing home chunks of steel with welds. And we've got like steel on our shelves, and he's like showing off all the cool welds and stuff he does. So again, I'm not sure if he'll turn that into a career, but that's skills that he's earning, right? And I've got some products around the house I'm gonna get him to help me with, but so I mean it's a great program, absolutely. We definitely need to all the different programs we have in CTE. The only other thing I wanted to just mention, you combined in your presentations, both the overview and a summary of the Perkins Grant. That's a 67-page monster that we have in here as well. Is there anything else that you want to call out on that? Because we'll bring that back up for a vote in a future meeting.
Not at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but like you mentioned, it is 67 pages long, and it's not the most riveting information that's on the form, but I will be happy to answer any questions as they come up.
Got it. Okay. Board, anything else? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, the man of the hour, Joshua Bauer, Senior Project Manager with Crabtree, Robach and Associates, will present the MCPS Capital Projects Update.
Chair Hudson, I think I'll co-present that with Mr. Bauer as well. Not to take away from the man of every hour. First and foremost, what I want to say is I did not recommend that we close Harding Avenue Elementary School. I am not recommending that we close Harding Avenue Elementary School, nor am I recommending that we close any school in Montgomery County Public Schools. I just wanted to start with that. This project began, as you all know, probably 18 months ago when we started talking about the renovations and what we needed to look at. And, you know, there's a lot of information gathering. There was a lot of meeting with the school administration, meeting with staff members. I know Josh went around and met with a lot of the community members during their events. Tried to gather as much information as we can, and because it's important, as we said in our mission and what we do believe, is get that input from the people that are going to be intimately involved in the schools rather than what we think is best or the board thinks is best. So I appreciate that, and we did a lot of time, and we put that a lot of effort in, and we came up. Josh and I were going at it last week and trying to decide and pricking our priorities, and this is what we came up with. We came up with a plan. Josh is going to go over some of the specifics, but we have a 3-phase plan. We're going to attack the 3 schools that we believe are the most in need of TLC. Talk a little bit specifically about what those schools are and why we picked those. What that potential cost would look like, potential timeframes, and then move on to phase 2 and phase 3, which obviously it's for discussion tonight. We're putting it out in front of the school board. This is what our recommendation as the administration would be. And obviously everything's open for dialogue, discussion. And then at some point, the school board, I would imagine, would vote on something that we could bring forward to the Board of Supervisors and get specifics with funding and things like that. So with that lead in, Mr. Bauer, I cede the floor.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for, again, for allowing me to present. First, I do want to say that it was tough to follow that act. And what I'll say is seeing and viewing what's happening at CHS and the resurgence of CTE is just awesome. It's probably the best that I've seen in my career. And CHS, as we go to that renovation portion of the CTE space, which is going to be in early 26 and moving through, we're going to be able to start to satisfy the needs of some of the waiting lists. You know, culinary arts and cosmetology and some of the other amazing programs and that currently don't have enough space for students. We're going to actually be able to expand all of those programs. So what we're seeing is just the excitement of the teachers and of the students is just amazing at CHS. I'm sure it is the other schools, but I'm a little more intimate with that particular school. And talking about the agenda for tonight, when you said about having a long agenda, everybody looked at me when you said that. I'm just trying to figure that out, but I will try to be concise tonight. So as Dr. Bregan said, we're going to talk about some options, or our preferred option, or recommended option. We're also going to talk about what costs have seen, and also how the overall enrollment has happened over the last couple of years. So we're going to start with what we're recommending is the preferred option. And as Dr. Bregan said, we're looking at basically 3 phases. So our recommendation would be to start with the addition renovations of your 3 elementary schools. Okay, so Harding of the 3 elementary schools we're talking about. So Harding Avenue, Gilbert Lincas, and Margaret Beeks. This would be comprehensive renovations. So if you remember in previous presentations, we looked at capital improvement plans. And then we looked at comprehensive renovations, which included all of those items for in the capital plan, and then also additions if they were needed to be able to meet the program needs. So what we're showing here is again what the school is, what the recommendations for the improvements are, what the cost range is, because again, we're doing everything at very high level. So even though you see drawings with some sketches on there, they are very much sketches. So we're showing a cost range, and then the timeline for both design and construction. So the timeline for design is about 12 months. Could be a little bit more, a little bit less. It's going to depend on the additions and/or renovations. What do we have to go through planning commission? Do we have to go through just code review? What are those pieces? And then same thing with construction is that can we do the additions, move folks, the classes into those additions and be able to renovate, or can we get it so that way we have 3 summers to be able to renovate? So what we're projecting for each of those 3 schools is about 12 months for design and about 24 months approximately for construction. All 3 of them could happen at the same time. So essentially, we could be, the board could decide to say we want to do all 3 of them at the same time, which is kind of what we're proposing, that we do design of all 3 and construction of all 3 at the same time without having any impact on the other schools. Does that make sense for everybody for phase 1? And so then phase 2, we'd be looking at Charlottesville Middle School. This is a mature building that needs some love. There's a lot of work in those spaces. So one of the things that we were proposing would be to do a replacement middle school. So if you, I believe last night there was some discussion about the 400 house development that could be happening in the neighborhood. So that's part of the overall impact. And as we're looking at the school and what could the enrollment be, and also are we going to have a large burden on that school to do a comprehensive renovation of the school? So as part of this, as part of phase 2, we'll be looking at a replacement school for Charlottesville Middle School. Where could that be located? That's a great question. There are, some areas that are in the neighborhood that the county does own that we could look at placing the school on one of those sites, and then repurpose the existing school or demolish the existing school. And then phase 3 would be to look at doing comprehensive renovations at Montgomery Central. Again, that would be looking at complete renovation. And when we say comprehensive renovations, that's HVAC, electric, roof, windows, all those pieces, security, and addressing all of that. Again, we're looking at a cost range, the design about 12 months, and then bidding and construction about 18 months. So Charlottesville Middle would be 12 months of design, 24 months of construction. Because Montgomery Central is a little bit smaller of a building, we think we can accomplish that more of like 18 months as opposed to 24 months for the actual renovation. So that is what we are recommending for the 3 phases of the renovation of these 5 buildings, renovations or replacement. And again, what we're thinking as far as timeline goes, and what we're thinking the cost range could be for each of those buildings. Is that summary? We try to make it as summarized as possible and kind of put it together in one package, and we can go into more detail as we go into the presentation. Does that make sense? Like, do the phases and what we're recommending make sense for everybody? So as we're looking at enrollment, so what we do is we pulled the fall report for each of the really the 4 schools, because Montgomery Central doesn't really count because it doesn't technically have the typical enrollment that we'd see for other schools. What we're showing here is simply just how has the enrollment fared over the last 5 years. So for Gilbert Lincas, Harding Avenue, Margaret Beeks, and for the middle and for Charlottesville Middle, you can kind of start to see how each of the schools have played out. Developments, as said by a person earlier tonight, again, developments have a factor. It's sometimes very difficult to say, okay, Josh, there's going to be 400 houses here. How many students is that going to equal? That'd be great. And if I had the crystal ball, I'd pay the lottery more. But what they say is there's about a 0.8 factor of number of students per building. And so if a house is being built, the current kind of rule of thumb is 0.8 students per house. It's a safe factor. Sometimes it's going to be more, sometimes it's going to be less, but that is a good number. So it says, as we're looking at development, whether it's happening in the Gilbert Lincas area or in Charlottesville Middle, the houses are coming up, we can start to factor in what is going to be a reasonable amount for what students could look like as we move forward. So cost, this is often a big discussion, is, Josh, why are things so expensive? We were seeing the market in general increasing, and this is pulling from Department of Education data. So they do a lot of great things. One of the things that they do is as we receive bids, we have to share that information with the Department of Education. And so they look at the entire Commonwealth. So this is the average of new buildings. Renovations are harder to calculate because buildings have, renovation could mean a lot. You could just be renovating and replacing HVAC, or you could be doing comprehensive renovations. So it's difficult to compare apples to apples. So I'm looking at just simply brand new elementary schools built from 2017 through 2024. And what you can see here is the cost per pupil is probably the one thing that I want to point out. Look at how much that's increased over the last 6 years. Going from $30,000 a student to $55,000 a student. And while we believe as we go into the next year, it's kind of leveled off. But again, you can see why it's so much more, because this is the state average. We're not simply looking at just your area. So it's been since 2017-18, it's a 49% increase in construction costs. So before we get into a little bit more details, anybody have any questions on the summary of the options, on the costs, on the timeline? Does everything seem to make sense? Is it kind of what we've kind of been speaking of and just kind of put everything together to try to simplify everybody's thoughts? Okay. So Harding Avenue, one of the really most positive things that we've captured on Harding Avenue, it's a wonderful building in a great neighborhood, is the additional property that you have. When we first did our assessment of the site, we didn't know that you actually own some of the buildings and some of the properties that were adjacent to it in different parcels. So as we're looking at, and one of the biggest challenges you have is car and bus drop off. Harding Avenue parents, right? Car drop off, it's pretty much a nightmare. Okay. So one of the things that we would be able to do as part of this project is really to improve both the car and the bus drop-off and make it more friendly for the neighborhood and also for the parents. The biggest thing we heard, and again, we're not going to go into super big detail on all of these because we've talked about these before. Probably the biggest thing that we heard at Harding Avenue is, Josh, can we please put walls in the because it's an open plan space. I will say that this is my 26th year being an architect. And the open plan schools are hands down the most quiet schools you will ever walk through. The students, the teachers, everybody's awesome because all they have is a chalkboard or some files separating their spaces. But this is another example of a super quiet school. All the students and the teachers are super respectful, of each other and of the space. But as they're looking at it, they'd be like, hey, it'd really be awesome if we could have walls in between our classrooms. So part of that would require us to do a small addition. To be able to create, because we would end up taking up some of the classroom space in that. So in addition for fifth graders, some specials and also for the dining room. We talked a little bit about this, that currently the kitchen is in one space and they take their trays and they go all the way over to what the multi-purpose room is. So that would be super awesome to have a dining space that's directly adjacent to the kitchen, and that would also take the multi-purpose room to become more of a gymnasium space. And I told you I'll be quick tonight. So Gilbert Lankus, so this is the site plan. Meeting with them again. The kind of the big focus is to look at the annex. Is how can we create an actual physical connection between the main building and the annex, and then can we make the annex a dining room that would take the multi-purpose room and create that as a separate gym and stage area. And then would take some of the specials and put them out into the annex. So the dining room, the kitchen, the art room, music, and STEM would all be in the annex. That would free up some space inside of the building. And then the desire would be to put at least 4 classrooms as far as an addition goes, because the upper classrooms are a little bit too small for what the function is. So this is an option that we presented before. Additional option was to create a larger addition that would have more 9 classrooms. This in the past was something that was not quite as desired. So we're still showing it as an option, but when we're looking at if I get to it, as we're looking at the option presented as far as the preferred recommendation would be this one, which is the 4 classroom edition, not the larger classroom edition. Okay, Margaret Beeks, another great space. Met with the principal again to talk about what are the needs. Everybody's super excited about the annex improvements, the direct connection. There is a desire to have some more small group spaces. So as we expand the media center library and create some more individualized space for reading and for speech, and then also there was a request to put 2 additional classrooms on here for better functionality in the building, and additional offices for coaches. Oh, am I out of time? Okay. So Charlottesville Middle, we've talked a little bit about this. So on the school board owned property is where the current middle school is. Directly across the street is county owned property. So I'm not giving any recommendations, but if discussions were to happen, could that possibly be the spot for a new school? That's something that we should talk about as an option, not a recommendation. So as we're looking at the biggest things with the renovations, would be creating a secure vestibule. Heard a lot of concern about replacing the HVAC, and then a direct connection between the main building and the 6th grade annex. So this is an option for a new middle school. This is actually Clark County High School, which would fit program-wise almost perfectly for a new middle school. So we just threw this on here as an example of what would a 700-student new middle school look like. This is what it could look like as an option, and somewhere in the neighborhood of about 200,000 square feet, which would be about appropriate for the student population. And I said this would be a replacement school. And then finally, Montgomery Central, which we talked about this. Some big focus here would be HVAC, technology, lighting replacing the roof, the windows, and making just an overall better environment for the students. There's often a misunderstanding of the program of an alternative school school boards do not want to love on these buildings. We would encourage you that the goal of this building is to help to transition students back into their appropriate high school. So making this a good environment where they can learn and they can kind of reset to help them get back into their student population is going to be our best outcome. So that is going back through a summary. So we've kind of represented a lot of stuff that we've talked about before. Any questions that anybody has? Any thoughts? Kind of a different shift in our thought process.
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. School board members, who has questions or comments? Who'd like to start tonight? Sure, go.
I don't see in the. Where am I? I'm on slide 8 for Gilbert Lincoln Elementary School, which has the priority list, and I don't see doors for the primary wing on that list. It would be in the comprehensive renovations. It just may have slipped off of the list, but that was both Gilbert Lincoln and Marker Beeks, both of them, that would be a priority for two things. One is to add the doors, and two is to move the cubbies into the classrooms themselves. That was both. So it may just have in the overall plan, but that would absolutely be part of the comprehensive renovations. As a matter of fact, if we could, I'd do it this summer. For both of those buildings, it is actually something we could do at any point, just to make that improvement. It's a little bit less than awesome to be able to walk down and have the disruption in the classes. But yes, that would be in both schools. That would be absolute as part of the comprehensive renovations. That was just a concern. Dr. Gitry and I talked to some stakeholders, and they were like, "We don't see it." So
yes, ma'am,
I wanted
absolutely.
to make sure that we definitely asked about that. He was able to stay a little longer than I am, so he may have some other concerns to share. Does Margaret Beeks already have a security fence around it?
Security fence.
Security fence was on some of these others. And
Security vestibule?
No, I thought I saw fence on one of these.
There was a request to put a fence around the playground. So as we're actually in the process of replacing some playgrounds.
Oh, safety! I saw a safety fence.
Yeah, just around the playgrounds.
And I wasn't sure if Beeks also had a.
Yeah, if you look at number
fence.
11 on Margaret Beeks, we have the playground and the safety fence.
Okay. Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, so any playgrounds that we replace, we would look at doing that as a piece, especially with the younger students. They tend to be a little bit more of a runner. So with with all the schools, we want to, if we don't have a security vestibule, we want to make sure that gets installed as part of the overall renovations.
Great. Thank you so much.
And go ahead and go around. Dr. Roundtree?
Yeah, so thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you to all of the Blacksburg community members that came out to speak and sent us emails. I'm very excited about the fact that we can get all these projects done during our January 29th, 2024 joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors. As I recall, unfortunately, it wasn't recorded. They were not expecting to be able to issue bonds until 2032. That, like I said, as I recall, tried to get a good number from them. I wasn't able to get that before this meeting. And it wasn't clear as to how much those bonds were either. So I'm very interested in when the Board of Supervisors will be able to issue bonds and how much they'll be able to issue them for. And just to remind everybody, speaking out works. Show up to the Board of Supervisors when we're talking about issuing bonds as well. Additionally, that Board of Supervisors meeting, I would strongly encourage that we do similar to our budget meeting and have that televised and recorded as well. That was very beneficial for our budget meeting. So I am in support of this phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 approach that you have here, and hope that we can get the bonds issued for it.
Ms. Franklin?
I'm really looking forward to the overdue planning meeting with the supervisors, hopefully by the end of June. We may have set a date for that, I can't remember, but I know they're going to get their information in June. So looking forward to that. So when it comes to Montgomery Central, there is a real lack of outdoor space for the students there. How can we address that so there is at least some kind of field or something for the students besides basketball?
In working with the building principal, we can decide what that is going to be as far as safety goes. But right, creating outdoor space is critical for any student, regardless of what age group they're in. So as we're looking at the building, parking lot was a concern, the possibility of having additional classroom space, and we can look at outdoor recreation space also.
Right, which is needed now. We might want to look at that before then, but thank you.
Yeah, and possibly, again, this is something that we could look at this summer. Depending on what's happening, it doesn't necessarily need to be a high dollar figure for those improvements.
Dr. Guthrie?
Good evening, thank you. So I want to ask a little bit about process. So I know that a number of months ago, you presented to us plans, architectural plans, and there had been some community feedback based on a survey. Mm-hmm. And after that presentation, I pressed for more community engagement, and so there were meetings that took place, and that fed into some of the revisions to the plan. So, I was a little surprised at the last meeting with one particular change, which was the consolidation and of Harding and GLE. And I thought we were to the point where we were trying to finalize plans to come up with the phasing, the price. Is there something that changed? Because I know one of my colleagues had suggested quite some time ago the idea of consolidating. Mm-hmm. Is there something that prompted that change at this late of a date? And now I know with Father and Gay, it was known a while ago that there was, they wanted to sell the property and to build developments. And so, what has changed to have these significant changes late in the process?
So I don't know that anything necessarily changed, but one thing that I want to make sure that we do is we explore all the options, even if it's an option that you absolutely don't like and it's rubbish. Because what we don't want to do is a year from now say, oh, if we would have just explored that option. So the goal of that presentation was simply just to say, hey, we've reviewed this. This is an option. It may not be a good option or an option that you even want to talk about, so we can quickly discount that option. So, but if we don't at least explore it, then you can't say, then as folks say, did you look at all the options? You can now say, yes, we've explored the options. So it's a good thing that we talked about it, and you see it's no longer part of the presentation.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that was surprising is that that option was presented after 2 rounds of community feedback. So it wasn't like when you went back to and this is not just for you, but just about the process, it's not like there was the initial feedback and then you presented the idea of consolidation so you could get feedback from the community. Basically, what happened is we went to the community and said, here are our plans, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
And then months later, all of a sudden, there's a architectural drawing for consolidating 2 schools and eliminating one of them that's just kind of dropped. So you could see how that might come across to the community as quite surprising. And so I've been kind of doing triage since we got those drawings, because I didn't know about these architectural plans until literally the evening of that meeting. And so I know this is a lot of work, but I have to say I'm surprised at so late a date that we're getting significant changes to the plan.
Yeah, in the last round of community meetings, that actually came up as a discussion piece. So the only reason that came up as even an option is because we had folks in the community who actually asked us, hey, is there an opportunity to consolidate? So again, we were simply just trying to accommodate by creating an option. Our intent was not to create anxiety or to get folks upset. We're simply just making sure that we have all, we can say we've checked at every option, because that actually was part of the last community discussion was, is that possible? So we didn't want to not do that. So I do apologize if that created anxiety. That was definitely not our intention.
Okay, because it took me by surprise, because I had no idea, and I'm the rep for District G, that this was even going to be presented until I literally opened the document the day of, because it was just loaded the morning of. I'll reserve any other questions right now, but I just wanted to make a statement about that.
It was absolutely not on purpose. It was not intended to cause any anxiety.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Barton.
Josh, thank you so much. CHS is looking great. Haven't been by close, but I've seen it from the road, and I've had all kind of community comments talking about how wonderful it looks, and kids way young looking forward to getting up into the new high school. So I'm excited to go look at that in real time and see how that's coming along. So I did have 2 things. One, I think I'm a little confused, and I think there was apparently some confusion that I'm really sorry that happened. And I want to thank all of our Harding people for coming out as parents, expressing your concerns. Thank you for your emails. I wasn't able to respond back to everyone, but I did want to let everyone know that I did receive and read all your emails. And as a parent, I totally understand where you're coming from and all of that. But I don't, Dr. Bragan, if you can help me remember, or Chair Hudson, I don't remember, and it might just be me, but I don't remember as a board member us ever presenting that actual collaboration as a board and talked about moving forward with it to get community input. Am I missing something? I know it was an informational piece, but I don't ever remember it going any further than that.
It never came up, and it was in, at least one board member asked us to have the architect explore what that option would look like, and that's all that it was. And I wasn't prepared to present last week. I said it repeatedly. I said it at the agenda prep meeting, and I was pressured into presenting prematurely. And the result was what happened for the last 2 weeks. I don't know how else I can say that. I don't know how many more times I could say that. I don't know how many more emails I could say, express that idea. I never suggested closing Harding Avenue Elementary School, nor am I, nor will I suggest closing any other Montgomery County public schools. As Board Member Purcell asked the questions earlier, we're not in an economic need where that has to happen, and why would we make those sacrifices when they're not needed? I don't know what else to say on that.
Yes, and if anybody's responsible, it's me. So I created the option based off of the community input.
You were asked to do your job. So when we started getting bombarded with emails, I was a little surprised, because I'm like, why are we getting this? Because we hadn't said as a board, had not said that we are even exploring that. The only thing I heard was that is something that is being looked at, but by no means was anything written in stone, or had that not gone any further. And I will say, in the past, there have been several other schools looked at to either where we've had board members say they feel like for economic reasons they need to be closed or combined. So this is not the first time a school district has been mentioned as either being combined or closed altogether. And again, that, even back then, that was still given as a suggestion or an informational piece for something to possibly, quote unquote, be considered, but nothing, because none of those ever came to light. It was suggested or as a possibility, but none of those ever happened as far as I know, were they? Okay, I just wanted to kind of clarify that a little bit, because I was a little concerned and confused when I started getting emails about something that sounded like it was happening and it was being thought about and permanent, and I just wanted to make sure I knew was on the right track with my thinking. So my second question was on Shawsville, and I know we had talked about renovating that in the beginning, so I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. I heard the concern about the new housing development, which I know a lot of residents have come out and spoken against, and there are several other ones that are for, so it's a big deal going on down that way. And another reason, is it because because of the age of that building as far as, or is it more because of the housing development, or is it a combination of why maybe a new school would be possibly better than a renovation at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to make sure I
hit the nail
understood you
on all.
correctly.
So yes,
Okay.
looking at several factors. One is the level of renovation of Charlottesville Middle School is a little bit greater, and there'll be more disruption to the actual educational program. As we're looking at growth in the area, if that housing development does go forward, to make sure that we can accommodate for the number of students that are going to be going through the middle school. So those are all factors on why we are recommending this as opposed to the renovation. Could we do the renovation? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, we could. It may take a little bit longer, so it may take, kind of like CHS, it's taking us like 3 years as opposed to 2 years.
Right.
Only because we don't have a lot of wiggle space to be able to move the students around. But again, all this is just a recommendation. We're certainly willing to and happy to make any modification to this at the desire of the board.
Okay. I'm not opposing that. If I just wanted to make sure that I knew that why that was being presented was due to those two issues possibly. And I can say that Shawsville Middle is one of the oldest and one of the most overlooked schools in the county, and it is their time and their due, and I know there's been some safety issues there, so whatever we need to do to get that school where it needs to be, I'm all for.
And then one of the noted concerns of the public was, can we get it further away from the train tracks? And I was like, I can't make it any more soundproof, but we possibly could look at doing that. So
okay. And I have, seems now that you've mentioned that, I keep hearing different things from different people, and sometimes I forget. But that was also the train down there too. So.
And thank you on the CHS comments. It is looking really awesome. So the blue metal panels are going up, the windows in the media center are going there, and we would love to give you guys a tour. Maybe we could look to early May. Let's do it before graduation. And I think it's really, really turning out quite fantastic. Branch is doing a fantastic job, and the building looks wonderful. So take a look at the video. We do that live video. So the blue metal panels are going up. They still have cover on them, so they have arrows. But the glass is going in. It's really, really shaping up to be wonderful.
It looks beautiful. Thank you.
Ms. Vaughn?
I agree. Christiansburg's looking great. The community is ecstatic about what's happening. They're thrilled. Everybody I talk to is just amazed at what it's looking like. I don't think anybody had an idea of just how great it was going to be. So thank you so much. And I completely agree with Ms. Parton. I remember the last meeting saying, this is just information only, the only reason why, and we are in the beginning. We're not, the way this works as far as my years of being on the board is, we don't even know how much money we're going to get or when. This is, I mean, like the dates, I mean, that's just projection, something to give the Board of Supervisors to take a look at. Then they share with us what borrowing capacity we'll get and what year. Then we take the plans back and we critique it. We are just in the beginning stages of starting a project. This is nowhere near the end. This is nowhere near completion. This is talking about ideas and some figures. And as I said the last meeting, you know, when we looked at the Christiansburg Strand schools and the renovations that we did there, and we had to whittle back a whole lot. And even Christiansburg High School, we had to whittle back a whole lot. I foresee these schools that we're looking at, we may have to whittle back to be fair to all the rest of the areas in our county. So this is the beginning stages of getting an idea, giving it to the Board of Supervisors. This is what we're looking at. This is the phases we're looking at. When can you get borrowing capacity? Just like Dr. Roundtree had said, probably 32. And then we go back and look at the plans you've designed and said, okay, you know, we can't do 5 classrooms here. We're going to have to do 2. We can't do this. We're going to have to, and that's what we've done for all of our projects. Every one of them, as you can contest to. That's just the way it works. So speaking that publicly for all of our community to hear, it's in the beginning stages. Nothing is in concrete. Nothing is set in stone. It's all a starting point on how to move forward for the future of our school system in Montgomery counties. Thank you.
I don't have any specific questions. All of them were generally asked and answered already. I do agree with the prioritization as you have it listed. You know, certainly those elementary schools haven't seen a major renovation ever, if not anytime recently. So I think they definitely need some attention. You know, certainly, I mean, I'm sure folks probably would have preferred for the conversations to have not happened and the outcry from the community or whatever else and all the emails and stuff we've had to deal with. But, you know, if you want to know how passionate the community is about your school, you start talking about closing it, right? So if there's any question, anybody wants to know how Harding or Gilbert Lincoln, even for that matter, feels about their schools, you know, there's no question that. A couple of years ago, a school board member started talking about maybe Charlottesville Middle, right? And same kind of deal, right? So, so I don't see that as a bad thing. And I think what you have presented tonight is a great plan. But again, it's going to have to stand up to reality in terms of timelines and borrowing limits and all that kind of stuff. But you know, this is a good start to the process. But there's a long way to go. I agree. Board members, any other comments? We don't have to go all the way around unless we want. Dr. Guidry.
Thank you. And I should have started by thanking everyone who came
sorry,
out
Laura.
and for all the emails and the community engagement. My boys went to Harding and we walked in the sunshine, the rain, snow, day after day after day. And I really value neighborhood schools. And I'm proud of Harding. And but I do want to clarify one thing. So when I look at phase 1 here, design approval starting June 25, correct?
Right, we were just trying to put some dates on there. The really important part is this 12 months for design and 24 months for construction. So I was just putting dates on there so that way there was practicality.
Right. And when is it that we want to get a plan to the Board of Supervisors?
Sorry, I think we had that joint meeting scheduled June 29th or so to have a rough idea. Again, I think it's all contingent upon going back and forth with what the possible funding is, what the dates would be, where they can open up funding for us. But my understanding was at that joint meeting, we were going to bring them something.
Right. So I was working back from that time frame. So I understand when you get to individual buildings, there's going to be a lot of refinement. Choice is going to have to be made. But when I say kind of later in the process, I'm thinking that, you know, when we present to the Board of Supervisors in June, they want to have a pretty good plan. We're not going to present that to the Board of Supervisors and then 2 months later say, oh, no, we're going to do a new building. I mean, there are big decisions that we're making up front, and I know that there's going to be refinement afterwards. So my comment had to do, I understand that part, but I think that was some of the concern is that we're in April. It sounds, we know we're presenting the Board of Supervisors in June, and just thinking about, okay, what kind of decisions have to be made between now and then. But I do have a question about the funding. So when people see these architectural designs and these phases, these dates are really ambitious. So do we think that we're going to start to get money from the Board of Supervisors to start in 2026? But it's here. It's in the.
He just was throwing out some dates.
Okay.
He has no idea about a borrowing concept.
And here's the important part of that is that you don't want to open up a school in the middle of the school year. Okay, so as an example, if it didn't happen in this time frame, we would want to push it a year. Okay, because you want to try to open up the building over the summer, so that way so that we're wrapping it up over the summer and we're finishing up for the fall. So as an example, if this pushed and said, okay, the construction's not going to start till 29, just throwing that out, then what we do is start design, in 28. So what's important is the time frame for the design really can't change a whole lot, and the time frame for construction really can't change a lot. So, but I was just trying to help by helping you understand that if it's a 3-year process. So if it were to get approved in June, or in 26 or in 27 or 28, it's still going to be 3 years out for the building to be done. So it was just trying to show you to help you, an example.
Right. I was asking that question in part because statements that the Board of Supervisors here has said about when there would be capacity to issue bonds, but also if you didn't see this presentation, somebody just looks at these architectural drawings, they might think, oh, this is happening within the next couple of years, and that might not be the case. So this is more for clarification and then also for the time frame. But again, thank you.
And for if we want to keep developing this, I can take those dates off and just say 12 months for design and 24 months for construction, just so that way it's, again, our goal is not to create, our goal is to try to help and try to create a timeline, not necessarily to create anxiety. So.
Definitely before we present to the Board of Supervisors, we don't want to presume to be dictating their timelines for them, so.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Not a problem. It's an easy fix. I can hit delete button real quick.
Great. Any other comments, Board? Thought I heard something over here. Yep.
Yeah, so tiptoeing around who said what. So in this effort, my goal was doing as much good for as many students as possible. And it was I that asked about overcapacity at some schools, undercapacity at other schools, how we can get students into buildings. Like I said, I appreciate everybody coming out. I do support the aggressive plan here. I was thinking that this was going to be an 18-year effort to spend $200 million. So more like 13. But if we can actually get this all done before the end of 2032, that would be awesome. But we're gonna need some help because the Board of Supervisors is not gonna want to put at risk their AA plus bond going to a AA bond. And if they're not issuing bonds, then every school we start, it's a 3-year process to get it done. Right, or as more. Yeah, and it was really good to hear some of the numbers thrown out, that we have potentially 400 new students coming online in Eastmont, 120 new students at Gilbert Lincas, 100 students, and this is using your 0.8 student per household. So for our elementary schools, that's going to be 200 students at Eastmont, 60 at Gilbert Lincas, 50 at Margaret Beeks. And we can tell the Board of Supervisors that we looked at all options when we were putting this together. Additionally, when we go to do these renovations, it would be very nice to be able to do them with individual stalls so that we decrease bullying and unintended activities in our bathrooms. If anybody else wants to jump in with anything, let me know, because I have a list here. But I don't want to take other people's time. And then for this, just a comment as far as the phases. If we could push if we could get the Board of Supervisors to pull Phase 3 forward, that's a very small addition to Phase 2 in comparison. So both Phase 1 and Phase 2 would be about $100,000 or $90,000 to $100,000. Or sorry, $90 million to $100 million. And as many know, and Phyllis Albritton was the one that instilled it in me, we need to educate our younger kids, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. And in order to do that, we're going to need some space. I did request the slide with Gilbert Linkus be put on there for that courtyard, outdoor courtyard playground. So if that were to be added in the future, using today's dollar amounts with plus inflation and everything, so we build out the school like this, but then 5 years down the road where we figure out how to fund 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds for preschool for everybody. Would the cost of that be approximately what is estimated here for the 9 classroom addition, the kind of $6 million? Or would it, as a new project, would there be additional cost to it? And approximately what would that be if there were?
So there might be new costs if that was a separate project. You still have your setup and takedown. One thing that I would say is that if this is something that is probable, then what we want to do is make sure the utilities, the power, the HVAC, other things that as part of the first phase project, that we actually get ready for this second phase, because that would actually be a better benefit from a cost and from a time standpoint to do that. So I would strongly encourage us to do that as part of this phase, was actually get ready for the second phase, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. And then a follow-on question, Margaret Beeks and Gilbert Linkus have the same footprint mostly. The grounds are significantly different.
Mm-hmm.
Could we look into the grading possibility to do the same kind of addition in the preparation for 3-year-old and 4-year-old preschool in the future? And just to quote Phyllis, if Cuba and Nicaragua can have school for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, the U.S. should be able to as well. I think that's all of my items.
Great. Board, anyone else?
Thanks, Josh.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. Have a great night.
Awesome, sir. It's good to see you.
Yep, likewise.
All right. So next up, Angie Bland, our Director of Finance, and Trevor Bennett, our Budget and Finance Manager, will present the 24-25 MCPS State Bonus Proposal.
Good evening. Mr. Bennett and I are here this evening to share some information on a recently approved budget amendment. On March the 6th, the governor amended the current operating year budget to include a one-time $1,000 bonus for all state-funded SOQ positions. Yes, absolutely. Is that better? Okay. The purpose of this bonus is to promote retention among the school instructional support positions. And the requirement for the bonus is that it must be paid to employees no later than June 1st of 2025. The district has approximately 965 state-funded SOQ positions. So there are a great deal, many more employees that support the daily instructional and operational activities. So the district administration is proposing to extend the one-time bonus to all other MCPS employees. That would exclude temporary positions, retirements, resignations, non-renewals, and separations. And that would allow the retention to cover the entire district. We do have an explanation of all the temporary positions for the district. And the funds for this state funded bonus is in process of being sent to our revenue accounts. However, they're held with Montgomery County. So we would need to submit a supplemental appropriation request, and that will be presented to the school board at a future meeting for consideration. The additional funding for the remaining employee bonuses could be covered by the current operating budget. Over the last couple of months, we have been closing out our ESSER-funded purchases. We were very fortunate to receive a large majority of that for capital purchases. We were able to do roofs and different projects throughout the district, but that was a percentage of that. There was another smaller percentage that was also covered for student learning loss. So some operational funds were also covered to provide those goods and services. The requirement for ESSER funds are that you have to spend that money first, and then you request reimbursement. So we have been in the process of doing that. The funds for Montgomery County have all been returned to them, so we have paid all of our dues to them. So the remaining funds that are sitting in the revenue budget are those that are additional revenue. It's beyond anything that was budgeted for. This was approved mid-year, so these are additional revenues. So a request would also be made to move those funds over to our current operating budget to cover those additional costs.
Eligibility, so as Angie mentioned, the proposal would exclude all temporary positions, but in addition to that, employees must be employed by MCPS on or before March 1st of this year, and then continue working for MCPS as of May 1st. And this criteria is in line with prior bonuses that the district has received in the past. The bonus would be a supplemental paycheck, and this would be issued in mid-May to meet the state's deadline by June 1st. It would be $646 after taxes. That's after your typical payroll taxes, so we would apply a standard rate for federal and state withholdings, so everyone would receive the same amount. You also have Social Security and Medicare. And we're open up for any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks for that presentation. Board, any questions or comments? Sure.
So thank you guys so much for the presentation. Did have a question on I'm sorry. Oh, maybe it is eligibility. No, I'm sorry, under the proposal, where we have the excluding, I guess, factors there. So I'm going to assume that the bonus is going to not only be for the teachers and the staff, but it's going to be for directors and higher up admin as well?
That's correct, yes.
And how much out of our budget is that going to cost for us to cover what the state is not covering for this bonus?
Sure. We've been calculating that. Some of our retirements are still coming in, so the exact amount is not 100%.
I'm sorry,
complete.
ballpark. You don't have to
Absolutely.
be exact.
Sure.
Just maybe a roundabout figure.
Sure. So the state-funded amount is going to be just over $1 million. We would need to supplement an additional approximately $500,000 to cover.
So $500,000.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's a lot.
Dr. Guthrie?
Sure, thank you. So I have a question about the ESSER fund. I read a couple of weeks ago that the Department of Education was going to liquidate the extension of the ESSER funds. Is that impacting this or us at all?
We are very fortunate that it does not, actually. We completed all of our projects within the required deadline. We were not willing to extend those out, so we worked very hard with our contractors to complete all of those projects, and we actually received all the goods and services by the deadline. So we actually have all but one reimbursement, and that's in process, so that the funds have come in with no issues.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ms. Franklin?
Okay, so Ms. Parton's questions answered a couple of mine. So if the eligibility is from March 1, 2025 to May 1, 2025, why are we excluding so many people who have been a part of our system? You know, I don't understand retirees, folks who have resigned, as long as they're still working for us within that time period. Quite frankly, even non-renewals and separations. If they worked for us within that time period, then they should be eligible for the bonus. If we have had long-term subs that have worked for us within that time period, why would we not give them the bonus too? Our homebound teachers who have worked for us, the all-in tutors, were those funds supplemented by the state for those folks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I can maybe understand that one. And the before and after school aides, I'm just having some problems with excluding people who are within our time frame, who have contributed to, you know, helping to educate our students. And I guess the other questions I had were what Ms. Parton had already asked.
And I can touch on that just a little bit. So we have followed the guidelines that we have in the past when the district has received bonuses. This is certainly open for your consideration, and we can take a look at that. To include substitutes and that list, that's probably between 500 to 600 additional employees that would receive that funding.
No, I said long-term subs who have worked for us within the eligibility timeframe, not all of our subs, yeah.
We can certainly get that number to you and see what that amount would be. We'd be happy to provide that.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yeah, just a question about the ESSER funds, following up from Dr. Gitry. Oh, that last invoice for ESSER, how much is that for? Do you happen to know?
The last reimbursement request was approximately 900, a little over 900,000.
Okay. Yeah, and just so the community is aware, why I ask is, earlier today I heard of another school division that had an ESSER project that was in the middle, and they pulled all the funding from it with the project half done, and they have a building that's not occupiable by students for that. So that 900,000, while the work's been completed and we are able to invoice according to the federal contract, the federal government is just pulling and not paying things right now to other school divisions. So that's a potential liability for our district.
So far, the reimbursement has been approved and it's in process. You know, the proof is always when it rolls into the account, right? Not until then, but we haven't seen any issues on our end for that. But you are correct, there are several divisions that have had to stop construction projects. There was an extension request that was offered to all the districts months ago. And a lot of those took advantage of that to complete projects, and now it's not being honored.
Right. Yeah,
we're fortunate that we're not in that situation.
Yeah, and just reaching out to the community on both sides of the aisle. We all support most all of us support education, and this isn't beneficial. The government guaranteed funds for projects, and they're reneging on those funds. So anyway,
Ms. Rousseau?
Just to clarify for the eligibility, if I were planning to retire but my separation date was May 30th or June 30th, I would still be eligible for the bonus, correct? Because I'd still be employed.
Not as proposed, no.
Sorry?
Not as proposed. If it's,
Not as
if it's
proposed.
known as of May 1st, then you
Okay.
would not receive the bonus.
Thank you.
Ms. Bond? Great. I don't have any comments either. We do need to bring this back in time to get it approved for all these to take effect. So I think the plan would be to have that at the next meeting. Sure.
It is just very, very wrong when repeatedly the state wants to fund SOQ positions, because that's what they say we need to operate our schools, and we know that it is far from it, and then put it back on localities to come up with the money or to spread that to all of our employees, or we lose the money for the SOQ positions. That's just wrong.
Especially when their own JLARC study says that they need to be giving us more money.
I guess, Board, just to kind of break with some of what we've done in the past that has led to confusion. So we've kind of had a couple of different opinions tonight, but we do need this to come back for a vote. So I guess, is there a majority of the board who wants to consider changing some of the rules around the proposal and the eligibility? Because if so, then that's going to change what you're going to bring back to us, right? So just want to give you guidance from the board more clearly.
Do we have the $500K in the budget to provide the additional bonuses?
Yes, those additional ESSER revenues would cover an additional, if that was the board's directive. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
But that's if we exclude all these people who are working for us. And just because they're not going to be with us, they still will be working for us within those dates. If they're working for us, they need to get the bonus.
Yeah, let's kind of go around and build a consensus in terms of how we feel about that, just so we know what we're asking them to come back to. Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what did you say so are new employees able to receive this as of what date?
As of March 1st. If they were
So just
hired.
as of last month?
Correct.
So me personally, I feel like employees that have been with us for the duration of what this bonus timeframe encompasses would be more entitled to the bonus than someone who's been working here for a month. But that's just my opinion.
I would say that the purpose of the bonus is more of a retention bonus, but we can certainly consider any changes to the exclusions.
Do you think this is retention due to amount of money people are getting paid, or what type of retention?
That's the state's.
So as part of the General Assembly, they were looking largely at how to retain employees. It's been an issue. We've seen it here at the district. It's very difficult to find positions. We see the open vacancies here. So this is a method to try and offer a bonus to help to retain current employees.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Can I ask a question? So these dates that we've been given here, are these tied to what the General Assembly is doing with us as well as positions, and we're just paralleling?
The General Assembly they do not provide any guidance as far as dates and such. We actually utilize the same information as a previous bonus 3 years ago when we had ESSER funding, and part of those funds were for employee bonuses. So we followed the general guidelines with that again.
I see. Okay. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to decide without seeing figures like in front of me to be able to see what the ramifications would be if we extended it to employees or made any alterations to this time frame. I'll listen to my colleagues here.
Sure.
Well, for me, by no means would I want to not have someone who's deserving to be able to get it. But I do understand, say if you're a substitute and you've only worked one day that month, not being eligible to receive, or, you know, coaches that do one season opposed to another coach that may do 2 or 3 seasons. So that could run into a very unfair advantage. The same thing with after-school aides. I feel like the ESSER funding pays them well from what I've talked to people and understood. They're very important, and I appreciate each and every one of them. But I believe that the funding for that has been it's a good amount that they're making. So I feel like we've treated them fair. You know, and some of the other situations, I think if you were a full-time employee, you might look at someone who's a half-time employee and kind of thinking, well, why should they get what we're getting? I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that's maybe why some of those positions might be looked at that way. Again, I appreciate each and every person that helps us educate students, so by no means am I being disrespectful to any of those people, but I do think there is a difference, and we do have to look at it that way. So, and I also think we don't have an unlimited amount of money. We have to, you know, set within our means what we can do, and any little bit that we can do is more than what we would have done. So,
Let me just ask a question before I keep going. In terms of the initial approved money by the governor for the SOQ positions, are there any conditions on that in terms of folks who are retiring or resigning, or is that everybody?
No, it's left to the district's discretion on that.
Okay.
It is a $1,000 bonus, so you know you do need to stick with that amount, and
Right.
then it has to be paid by a certain date. But they do open that up to allow you to fund other positions beyond the SOQ.
Okay, thanks. Keep going, Sharon. Any preferences here? We don't really have a consensus on anything here.
Again, when I talk about subs, I'm not talking about subs who are working 1 or 2 days during the period of time for eligibility. I'm talking about long-term subs who have been working for months within the district. Our homebound teachers, as we know, many of them work all year long. You may not be in a building, but they are working, helping to support our students. The summer work, I can understand that, right? I can't even understand why we would eliminate student positions if they have worked for us and are working for us during that period of time. I just don't understand why we exclude people who are helping with us. I understand the retention piece, but if I'm a long-term sub and I get left out of this, next year I might not be a long-term sub. Inbound teachers, same thing. So, yeah, I can see how some folks might not be able to take advantage, but all the folks we have listed, I can't agree with that.
So what's the mechanism that this is working as a retention bonus? I mean, I could like understand if you're signing a new contract, you get $1,000 bonus, that's definitely a retention bonus. How is this helping us retain teachers? Or staff, sorry.
The interesting concept here is that all school districts are receiving this exact same bonus, as well as other local agencies and state, agencies, localities and state agencies. So everyone's going to be offering the same thing if approved by their boards.
Right. Mm-hmm. And there's guidance as to how it gets distributed?
It just, they provided funding for the SOQ positions. They put restrictions on when it has to be provided to the employee, but there are no other restrictions on that. They only fund those certain positions, but they don't put restrictions otherwise.
Okay. Thank you.
So maybe I would propose then, just to help us make a decision at our next meeting, if you could bring some numbers for these other, in particular the temporary positions, I think, just to kind of give us a ballpark. I agree with the long-term subs in particular, because like you said, it's 500 subs in general, right? But long-term subs, I agree with the homebound. I agree with the aides, the summer workers, those kind of things. But yeah, I think to Dr. Guthrie's point, I mean, it's hard to make this decision without knowing, are we talking $5,000 or $50,000, right? So $500,000, right? Right. So I think that's maybe the guidance to give you guys, just to help us out.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Well, and are we going to set if it's a long-term sub, is it a 3-month long-term sub? Is it a full-time, full-year long-term sub? I mean, then another substitute could say, wait a minute, I've subbed every day. Just because I'm not a long-term sub doesn't mean that I haven't been in that building every day for 6 months. So how are we going to draw the line to that?
Do we need to look at the entire fiscal year? They might have been a long-term sub for the beginning part of the year, but have not been since December or January.
Right. I mean, because like I said, you could have someone on our substitute list that takes every job that comes available every day and has worked for us the whole year. So even though they're not considered a long-term sub, they've still been with us every day for the whole year. So, I think might be, if we're not careful, opening a little can of worms there.
I think that can be also determined very easily. I mean, the eligibility is very clear. March 1 until May 1, right? And again, our retirees, really, let's just, all their years, and let's just not, folks who have, okay, I'm still talking here. Even temporary employees, I mean, need to know what that looks like. Resignations, folks resign for many, many reasons, but we set an eligibility period, and we need to look at who fits within that eligibility period, and why we wouldn't.
Okay, so I think you've got some direction, maybe.
Yeah, we can break down that information for all the temporary positions for you. Are there any changes to the time, the March 1st and May 1st? Or is there a consensus on that?
Yeah, I don't see a reason to change that one.
For this part of partial employment, do we want to try to prorate over the year or anything, or is that possible? Can we easily figure that out? Any of the groups, I mean, subs, let's say this, a substitute teacher substituted for 50% of the days in the year, then that would be $500. A substitute teacher's substituted for 200 or for 25% of the days in the year, it'd be $250, so forth.
That sounds hard, but
I would say it's
it seems like HR would have the numbers easily, but maybe not.
It does make it difficult for payroll
I don't see Amanda,
to do that, but yeah, it's doable.
For guidance, as far as the resignations, are we talking about anyone who is resigned after March 1st would still get the bonus? Is that?
If they're not working for us March 1st, between March 1st and May 1, if they've resigned, then they've resigned within that time period. They didn't complete it.
But if they submitted their resignation, but they plan to serve out the rest of the school year.
Well, then they're still working for us within that time period.
But we're not retaining them, really even. I've never seen a company give a retention bonus to somebody that's leaving. It's literally the opposite of a retention bonus.
There's no retention.
This isn't a performance bonus, this is a retention bonus.
Has it shown that it really helps, you know? I'm just about people who have helped us throughout the year or years to stay with us, be employees, because as we know, people resign for many, many reasons. A lot of it is because we have 2 universities in the area and a spouse is now leaving. And they were here following the spouse. Or they just weren't treated well.
So bring us a bunch of numbers, I guess. We'll try our best.
Can do that.
Next meeting. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So, unrelated to that, do I have a motion to authorize a request to the Board of Supervisors for a capital project transfer of $1,384,600 to the 2024-25 school operating budget? That's to address some of the capital projects that were presented at the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Purcell and Dr. Roundtree, any discussion?
A better term. Isn't that just for capital projects? You said operating budget.
It's a capital project transfer, yes.
Right, from the,
Yep.
from the, what, 2.5 cents? So how much do we have in that account? Because we've asked for a lot of money from there recently.
Ms. Hill could probably talk about that. There's 2 accounts. There's the operating budget, which is the 2.5 cents, which comes out to about $3 million a year for capital improvements. Then we have a bit of a capital reserve, and Ms. Hill could talk about, Ms. Bland, not Ms. Hill, where that money comes from and what we're using. These were presented at our last board meeting, and they went out to bid and actually came in lower than what we expected.
Yes, sir. So we began the year with approximately $3 million for capital projects, and we've submitted several requests that were considered by the school board and then to Montgomery County. And so our remaining funds are approximately 1.8, 1.9. In the last presentation, I believe at the last meeting, we shared the capital projects that we are working, currently to get pricing on, and these 2 are part of that. We're still getting some pricing on the wider water pipe replacement, so we're still waiting on that. But if this is approved, there would be an additional $450,000 remaining in the capital funds for fiscal year '25.
Okay. So I just heard you say there were 2 pots of money.
The operating fund is at 2.5 cents annually. Then we have some capital reserve, which is monies that's in the bank for capital projects.
Okay. So if I'm remembering correctly, when the funding was being gathered together for Christiansburg High School, part of that funding was going to come from that pot of money that's being put aside for capital projects, at least for 1 year, to help with that project there. So are we still good with those funds?
We are certainly, we can look at the 26 funds. Right now, we're in good shape with all the funding for CEHS. We actually meet on a regular basis to go over that funding, and we're in very good shape. One of the additional amount of funding that we should receive, it still has to be discussed, I believe, with the county, but as those bond funds sit and they're not actually expended, there's some interest that is compiled on that, and that's a discussion with the county and how that works, but some of that funding can also roll over to that project, so we don't foresee any issues with the funding for Christiansburg High School.
Okay. Because if I remember correctly, part of those bond funds, the interest, that was how we were able to do the athletic projects at Christiansburg High School, because needed to use that money before we lost it.
That is correct. That is correct. And there was actually still a lapse in time from where we began the project for Christopher High School, when we started the design and the bid and all of that before it actually began construction. And even now, it's gaining interest because those funds are still sitting there. You know, the complete amount of money was put into that funding, so it gains interest every day that it sits there. So we'll have quite a bit of additional funding with that. And again, we have to work with the county to see how that's distributed, but there shouldn't be a problem. In the beginning, I know, in looking at the funds, there were some concerns as to whether they could fully fund the entire thing, and that was one of the funds that were considered. They were looking at our capital funds, the 2.5 cents. But if we can hold that, you know, for all other capital projects, that would be wonderful for the district to allow us to do it. We still have roofs and other things that, you know, I'm sure facilities would want to consider. But we're working very closely with Josh Bauer. He meets on a regular basis. He just mentioned to me that he wanted to schedule another meeting with budget and speak with Dr. Bragan to do that. But we're in good shape with that. We see the invoices come in, we approve them, and we're watching that very closely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
So with these projects coming in lower, is there any chance that we can get some doors in Margaret Beeks and Gilbert Linkus with this capital funding?
We could do whatever the board desires. We'll know at the end when all the projects come in, if they all come in lower, right? That doesn't always happen, but
Right.
so far that's been the case, and that leaves us extra money to do whatever capital projects we think we need to.
And there's capital funds still in the account to do a different project, correct? Or are we spending out all the capital funds?
No, we have some capital
Assets.
reserve monies that are set aside, some for a rainy day, but most of it we plan to expend with some of the projects we talked about.
Okay.
And as they come in, we have to do the appropriation for this board, and then we bring it to the Board of Supervisors to get the capital funds. So we won't put forth anything in this type of format that we haven't already talked about. So Ms. Hill and Mr. Walters presented at the last meeting, I believe, what we anticipate our summer projects to be. So they're going to come in, and then we'll present them to all of you for the appropriation.
Okay, board, any more discussion? We have a motion and a second. Okay, great. Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Goodtree?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Next up, Dr. Lori Comer, our Director of Secondary Education, will present the work of the ELA Textbook Adoption Committee and a recommendation. This is a first read and will be brought back for approval at the May 6th school board meeting.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I would like to start by a very special thank you to Mr. Dave Dickinson and Mr. Tony Dobler. In the absence of an ELA administrator, these gentlemen stepped forward and they have chaired the committee that's gone through the work this semester to get our ELA adoption. So what I will begin with on the screen will be the actual committee. And as you can see, this was brought before you earlier this year. We have 12 ELA teachers, 1 ESL teacher, 2 gifted resource, 1 reading specialist, 3 different literacy coaches, an administrator, 2 special education teachers, 2 ITRTs, and 3 community members, parents that were involved in this presentation. Our textbooks that we had to choose from were all approved by VDOE, including our 6 through 8 textbooks that will have to meet certain requirements for our Virginia Literacy Act. So those are all listed on your timeline. We have that list. In February, the committee did meet and they narrowed that list down a little bit. As we can see, we started having the books on display. We had online access that was available through our website. It was sent out to community members. Everyone had a chance to give feedback. Here we have public comments. Public comments, they could just give feedback on it. They did not rank them as 1, 2, 3, or 4. So in the timeline, you will have all 4 textbook adoptions there: the HMH, the McGraw-Hill, Savas Learning, and Perfection Learning. The Perfection Learning that they looked at was only available in the middle school. For the high school, that was not an option that the committee chose to look at. On March the 26th, the vendors all did presentations virtually. Our committee members all joined in that, and they got to hear vendor after vendor after vendor. After that, those presentations were recorded, and they were sent out to all of our ELA teachers. So all of our ELA teachers had an opportunity to hear that same presentation that all of our committee members heard. After that, our teachers, all during the month of February, they had access to the materials. They could look at them online. We had hard copies available they could look at. And we gave the teachers an opportunity, and they had a Google form they could fill out. And we collected information from the teachers, the ELA teachers, and then we put all of this together. And on April the 8th, we met with the committee, and this was our agenda from April the 8th. We had, from the public comments that I've already shown you, we had 8 total responses there. From our ELA teacher feedback, we had 10 teachers that provided feedback through the Google form. We had 9 of our teachers on the committee that gave feedback. We only have 27 ELA teachers, so that's a pretty good percentage rate there. As you can see from this chart, 50% of our teachers chose the Savas My Perspectives, and only 40% had the HMH. That was our 2 top runners. The teacher feedback is here. You have that in your board docs. But we did ask our teachers to rank their first choice as to what they wanted to teach. The committee members, just to show you the type of work that our committee members did, each committee member filled out this entire chart for all 4 of our recommendations. They spent a lot of hours and a lot of work researching this, going through the different curriculum, and then putting their thoughts together. On April the 8th, we pulled it all together. We presented all of this data to our committee members. They had the opportunity to see the public input. They had opportunity to see their teacher input. And we know that they had also gone back to their schools and talked. Our final result that we have, and in the end, is 55% was in favor of Savas Learning, and 45% was in favor of HMH. We also have a scoring rubric on there that they were able, we just compiled all their scores from those massive sheets that the committee filled out. So that's the form they filled out, and they gave justification for each one of their choices. So after careful consideration, when they got feedback from other folks, the committee would like to recommend Savas Learning be adopted as the curriculum for ELA for next year. Attached in the board docs, you will also find quotes. And during this process, we did discover teachers wanted a hard copy of the textbooks in their classrooms. That was very important. But with the quote we have for you tonight, it's also got the digital access for our students. And it has, within our first year, we can order, there's some novels included with that. So what questions do you have for me?
Okay, thank you for that presentation. School board, any questions or comments? Who'd like to start tonight? Sure.
Thank you, and thank the committee for all the work that they put into this. Just to confirm, so the quotes that we have, those include hard copy sets for all the classrooms?
Yes, it includes a hard copy classroom set for each classroom.
Okay. I think that's it.
And the prices you see there are for a 7-year access.
Okay, great, thank you.
Board, any other comments? Do we want to go around?
Just thank you so much for having such a thorough process. Thank you so much for stepping up when there's not an ELA coordinator to help with all of this. I'm really excited that there will be hardcover options for kids and novels. You read differently, and when they're still struggling readers to be on a screen. It's nice to have that other support, so thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a lot of work, a lot of information. Thank you guys so much for everything. That was a lot of time, and I appreciate all the time that you took to look into that for us and give us this information. I am very excited about hard copies for the classroom because I like an actual book in a child's hand. Not that I'm opposed to the Chromebooks, but I like books. And even at the college level, when a lot of it is online, there are still recommended books that are purchased that, to me, nothing beats an actual book. I guess because I'm old school. But anyway, excited to hear that, excited to hear about all the book options. And by chance, was there any discussion or was there anything said about why, because the percentage was a little close on those two different literatures. Was there any preference given over the SAVIS other than the HMH? Was there any main reason that they decided to lean towards that rather than the other? I don't know if anything was brought up or discussed, or did it just happen to be that far even of a difference between the two?
I think it was just fairly close. And then the day on April 8th, when we met virtually with the entire committee, they had the opportunity to read through all of the public comments. They had the opportunity to see the feedback that the ELA teachers had given. And then after they had all of that, then we gave them their ballot to vote.
Okay, great. So it sounds like that may have been some of the reasoning that one leaned more than the other. I was just curious on that, if that feedback had been given.
And I think they were both very good,
Right.
very good choices.
Right. Okay,
So-
perfect. Thank you again so much.
You're welcome.
Board, any other comments? I'll definitely agree that this presentation of information was great. It was nice to see all the steps and all the work that y'all put into it. Thank you for all the work and for the presentation of it. So,
They did
Great.
a lot of work on it. The committee should be commended.
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, board, next up, the Special Education Annual Plan is presented to the board for approval. The plan was originally presented to the board on April 1st for first read. Do I have a motion to approve the Special Education Annual Plan as presented?
Second?
Ms. Franklin and Ms. Purcell, any discussion?
I just wanted to point out one thing. So there were discussions about certification of whether we do DEI or not doing DEI. And I just wanted to point out, that one of the things that we have to do, so with this application for funding with this grant, is that we have to affirm that we don't discriminate. So when we submit applications for funding, grant applications, so when I actually looked for it in this, and there are a number of things that you're attesting to, and one says, no person shall, on the grounds of race, color, national origin, sex, disabling condition of age, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be otherwise subjected to discrimination under any program or activity for which the applicant received financial assistance under the provisions of the Act. So we do certify. Just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Any other comments, board? Okay, great. Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guitry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Next up, an updated administrative organization chart is presented to the board for review and approval. The previous organization chart is provided for comparison. Changes are highlighted in yellow on the revised chart. Do I have a motion to approve the revised organization chart as presented?
So moved.
Dr. Roundtree and Ms. Bond. Any discussion?
Yes. So I know there is a job description that is getting rewritten, so I personally would like to see that description before I vote. DEI position.
Yeah, what did you?
Which job would that be?
That would be the only one that the name is changing from Director of Equity and Diversity to the new title, Director of Educational Access and Opportunity, which I don't believe that job description has been finished yet.
That would be accurate. We didn't update that job description. We wanted to put it on the org chart first, change the name and put it in the right part of the organization with the other changes that we made that do reflect what those positions actually are, and that we want to make sure the job description is reflective of that. So we did not update that job description yet. The thought was we would do the org chart first.
So it's my understanding it's just a name change and not a responsibility change.
It's more than just a name change, because working with the people who are currently acting in that capacity in the leadership of that department is we want to make sure the job description identifies what they actually do, which is more reflective of just being a specific group, which is sometimes what the perception is. So in working with Stacy and Guyleen, we do believe that we want to make it more reflective and cover all that they do and all the children and people that they do actually help to provide educational access and opportunity.
Just for clarity, when that job description went out before, in no way did it discriminate against any class of people. It was a job description that was saying that it was designed to have diversity, all diversity, equitable services for equitable outcomes for everybody, and inclusion of all people. There's no discrimination here. So, I mean, we were including all people already. We just had a name change that for some reason is now a curse word. And now we're changing it to be the same position, different name. But
I think there's a bit of a change there, and I agree with you. In no way was any discrimination or discriminatory practices taking place prior in the other description or in the other organizational chart. But in working with Guyleen and Stacy, who've been doing this, and I think Guyleen's been there from one of the beginnings of the organization and putting that department in place, it's evolved in the work. And often people, as they've said in their presentation, don't understand the depth and the breadth of what they do. They tend to focus on one particular area, one particular thing, and it's really much larger than that. So this actually came about from a conversation last fall, and way before all this legislation and things came into place, just to make the position more accurately reflect what the people in that department actually do, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, the perception of what occurs there, I understand. And expanding upon what it's grown into is good, but the core mission is still there with some additions.
Correct.
What are the additions?
I think we want to change some of the wording and make sure it's more reflective of a wider scope and not sometimes that it could be perceived as being more limited. We will bring the job description to all you to vote on and to approve before we move forward with it.
Okay, so I strongly disagree with this. And as I stated before, because the Department of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion was isolated, it was ignored, it was not used in a way that folks would automatically see. This is not about race. Let's talk about what this is. This is about making sure that we are treating all of our students and all of our employees fairly, and everybody's getting what they need. So this is about race. This whole conversation is about race. And the work that has been done and has been trying to do has been put in isolation so that people think that it's just about race, because it's not been used in the broad form that it's intended, has been intended to be used. So I'm gonna be voting no on this. And to be voting for something that I don't have the full job description of also doesn't seem like that's what I want to do.
Board, any other comments?
I guess I'd like to see the job description with the org change. Echo that. I'm just gonna, there was a suggestion of adding equity back in, but I don't see it here. I don't want to get political, but we're being put in a position to make statements. I'm just gonna read two sentences, one sentence actually, from our mission. We value diversity and we are committed to equity and inclusion. That's in our mission. There have been references to the law changing. School law has not changed. Title I has not changed. Title IX has not changed. Title VI has not changed. The reason for doing this is because of fear, because of an administration in the White House. That's the only reason why. Now, yes, changes can be made to address a larger constituency to fulfill this mission. I don't see why a name change is required, because Black does not appear in the title of that office or that position. So if it's being construed as racial, then that's a problem. But it's not a problem in terms of the mission that's trying to be achieved in the division. So I fully believe that we have much work to do, and I don't see this as moving in a constructive direction. And this is no disrespect to the people in this office. I understand the pressure that has come down on people working in this area. This is not to besmirch them at all. I understand why this was done. I just oppose it fundamentally.
Board, any other comments?
Yeah, just thank you for adding that piece.
Okay. I think we have a motion and a second, right? I can't see it on the screen right now.
Yeah, who made the motion in second? Who did?
Dr. Roundtree was the motion and Ms. Bond was second.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. So I would like to amend my motion to approve tentatively with the job descriptions for the four positions as presented most of them are already, are the positions that they currently are brought before us when before the job descriptions are put out. The Director of Education Access and Opportunity would be tentatively approved, and we would see the job description before its final approval.
I feel like you either approve or disapprove the org chart, but you can definitely bring the job description forward.
Okay, we can just require the job description be brought before us in the motion.
Is that what I'm hearing from you, Dr. Roundtree? Is that what you're wanting?
Correct.
Okay.
Did we not get
You
the,
have the second on that. So
Was
you-
that not what?
no?
I was just clarifying.
Yeah.
That's what you had suggested earlier. correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's what I had asked for, yes. A description,
To see the job.
because it was changing, and we hadn't seen the description.
Okay, I was thinking in the presentation they had given us what the description of the, was it not?
Presentation of it, yeah, but not the actual job description, I guess.
Okay, so I guess I rescind my second because I have no idea where we're at.
Can we clarify the
We can just
motion?
vote on the original motion to approve it as it is. See
I
what
think we
happens.
have agreement by the administration that they'll bring the job description to us, but. Yes.
All right.
Okay, so sorry. So what's the motion? Let's clarify.
So the amended motion was approve the organizational chart tentatively with job descriptions of the 4 positions presented before the board. But then did you change it back to approve as presented?
Correct.
So the motion would be approve the revised organization chart as presented.
Okay. So do you still second that? Did you still rescind your second? It's basically the same motion you had before.
Oh, I'm going to rescind it because I'm completely confused, so I'm going to rescind it.
Okay. So I have a motion. Is there a second? And there doesn't have to be a second. If you don't get a second, it just dies.
I think we need to approve the org chart, right? So a second.
Okay. Any more discussion before we take a vote? All right, great. Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Because I really don't understand the direction we're going in.
Ms. Franklin?
Absolutely not.
Dr. Guidry?
No.
Ms. Pardon?
So I'm voting no because I need to see the full job description that it will be when it's written, as well as the policy as we move forward with this new title.
Ms. Purcell?
Motion fails. Sure. Yes.
No.
Dr. Roundtree?
Sorry, no.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
2
For
in
its worth.
favor, 4 opposed, 1 abstain.
Okay. So do you want to make any other motion, or do we just want to let that vote direct the administration? Okay.
Sounds like we need to. The motion failed.
So what are we asking the administration to do here? It sounds like at least one board member would like clarification in job description.
If the policy changing as well.
Which policy?
Our DEI policy.
Do you mean the position, if the position is changing?
What the job is of the person in that position,
Okay.
what their,
So you want to see the job description? Yes. Okay. And if by seeing the job description, that would give you more confidence to vote for the org chart?
possibly, depending on what it says.
Okay. Is there a consensus of the board who would also like to see that? I think I heard at least a couple voices, but I just want a consensus.
So what are you wanting it to say or not say?
I'm not gonna get political like everybody else up here does, pretty much every meeting and I'm not gonna go there, because all I asked for was something simple, was the job description, before I can make my vote.
And it gets political up here all the time. And my
And it
comments are.
shouldn't be.
Well, then we need to make sure everybody understands that, because it does all the time. So, again, my position is not political in any way.
I wasn't saying
It
you,
is
Ms. Franklin.
about
Let's not talk over
treating-
each other if we can, please. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's about treating our students and our employees fairly and with dignity. This is not political. This is about treating human beings the way they should be treated.
And I agree with you totally, and that's not what I said. I said I would just like to see a description of the job, because it is being rewritten. I have every right to ask that.
Okay, all right. Okay, so it sounds like, can I get a show of hands? Let's make this faster. Show of hands, who else would like to see the job description before we vote on the org chart again?
Are we going to get the jobs description for all 4 positions? I thought that's what that's what the initiative was to begin with. And that's, I guess for me, I would like to see all 4 of what we're looking at.
Okay.
So I think the other 3, the board clerk, the CET, and the business partner, I think those were already discussed before we adopted those positions already. It's the director of whatever you want to call it, is what we haven't seen.
Is that a true statement? I think that's correct as well, but, I mean, the board chair, the board clerk, just to be clear, was just an omission. That wasn't in
Right.
the org chart, so that's just a correction. But I do remember talking about the administrator of CTE and business partnerships in a previous meeting, and I think the McKinney-Vento liaison as well, but.
Yeah, wouldn't hurt to bring them, we could bring all the updated job descriptions for review at the next meeting, and then y'all decide if you want to vote on the org chart or not.
Okay.
It's only 7 days away, right?
Well,
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a regular meeting, but
Oh, we can't do,
but.
I'm sorry, what's that? We can't do what?
oh, we have a budget meeting next week. I was asking if it could be on the agenda next week.
Okay.
Do whatever you want to. Okay. Trying to get some clear direction. So raise your hand. What I'm hearing is the board would like to see updated job descriptions on the 4 positions that are highlighted yellow. Raise your hand if you agree with that. Great. And if we can get it by next week, we include it on that agenda.
But would that just be for informational purposes? Because I didn't think we were voting at that meeting. That was just to talk about budget priorities initially. Right, okay.
Well, I mean, that is a special meeting though, but I guess we can take action at that meeting. It wasn't the intention of that meeting, right? That was meant for us to just have a budget conversation, but.
How,
Well,
It's on.
okay, the reason I voted no, or didn't vote, was because I believe we have already seen and approved the other, and it's only that one job description that we haven't seen.
How does not taking action tonight affect your hiring processes or difficulties over the next month?
Well, we haven't advertised the position yet because we don't know what to call it. And we don't have the job description. So the plan was to get this approved and then to get the job description. But we'll get it done by next Tuesday.
We've known there's going to be a vacancy since January.
Is that only for that one position? You can go ahead and advertise the other three?
The other three have people in them already.
Sorry, yeah, that's right there.
I mean, one of the things that we could do is I could put a motion to take care of some of this, unless there's a consensus that everyone wants to see all four. Do you want to see all four? I just asked for the. Yeah. I move that we approve the administration organizational chart for the three positions, with the exception of the Director of Educational Access and Opportunity. And we delay that until we have more information.
I'll second that.
Okay. Seems like a good compromise. Any discussion, board? Do we have that motion recorded?
I think so. A motion to approve the administrative organizational chart for 3 positions with the exception of the Director of Educational Access and Opportunity until a job description is received to the board.
Okay. Those 3 are just a reflection of current positions that we already have and are left off the org chart originally.
So just so I can move forward with some of it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on this before we vote? Okay. Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Gitry?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. With the action to pursue the job description, and we'll get that on the meeting as soon as possible. Okay, great. Are there any items of unfinished business?
One. So, the point had been raised about the 10-day suspensions and students not having any type of support during that period of time, which our alternative program initially was put in for that specific group of students. So we're sending students out for 10 days with no support. That's just wrong. And I would like to know where we're at with that.
Mr. Howard is working on a plan for that. We'd like to get it implemented and in place for next school year. It's kind of hard to do it right now as the end of the school year, but we're on that.
Okay. Can we get a report back when we have an idea?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Any other items of unfinished business? Okay. Any items of new business? Nothing? Okay. Are there any announcements?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the staff members of Kips Elementary School who were with the children on their field trip in Williamsburg, Jamestown earlier this month. Very sadly, they witnessed a fatality, and I'm just so appreciative of Dr. Crummy, Mr. Peters, and the parents and faculty that helped make a very, very scary situation a little better for the kids who are there. And thank you for providing the extra support for children also.
Okay, so, and I'm embarrassed, but I can't remember the name of the play at Christiansburg Middle School. So-
Blue.
Okay. Thank you. I knew you'd let me know. But anyway, it was wonderful. And it is, again, always amazing to see the talent that we have from our students across the district. I was also able to get into some schools this week. Christiansburg Primary, Christiansburg Elementary, Falling Branch, and Bellevue. And there was a comment made at the Board of Supervisors public hearing last week that has really gnawed at me, and it was about public schools being cookie cutters, how we educate our students. And if anyone walked into, I know this goes for all of our buildings, but those 4 elementary schools, and saw how our students are learning and how each one of them is being supported, it's just amazing. So to those folks who say private schools do something better than public schools, they need to have their head examined, because even the data does not show that that is the truth. But it was truly amazing to see how every student, no matter how quickly a situation arose, they were surrounded with support to make sure that their day was better. Just amazing. I could have watched the baby chicks all day, and I would have sat there and waited for those duck eggs to hatch, but I couldn't do it. Also, we have some playground areas that need some attention, and I'll talk with you about those later, but it was just wonderful. So, yeah, I didn't have a chance to speak again after that person, but someone did address that, and that was just so wrong, so very wrong to say public schools do cookie cutter, because I was in schools in Montgomery County when it was cookie cutter. And I was just thinking what life could have been like for many students that I went to school with if we were given the same attention and opportunities that our students are getting today.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank the CMS Middle School also for the Disney Descendants performance. My third grader and I went to see it, and it was an excellent performance. And thank you to all the eighth graders that are graduating that have been committed to the theater program there for many years. And thanks to our BMS staff responders today and first responders for their diligence during the bus incidents, as well as the KIPS staff earlier with the tragedy that happened there. I'd also like to thank Senator Warner for coming to NRVCC for roundtable discussions with educators today. And then lastly, I want to make the community aware of the summer community feeding program around our county for helping feed our students throughout the summer. And I think Ms. Knotts, that was Ms. Knotts' grant, and thanks Ms. Knotts for putting that together.
Board, any more announcements? All right, great. Taking a look at our upcoming meetings. We have our special meeting coming up next week for the budget on April 22nd. We've got our school board retreat on next weekend, the 25th and 26th. And then our next regular meeting is on May 6th. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia to discuss one personnel matter?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Guthrie and Dr. Roundtree. Any discussion? Ms. Stanley, please call the roll.
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Dr. Guthrie?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Purcell?
Yes.
Dr. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. We are now in closed session.